For 10 years Ryder battled cancer, and I spent our entire fortune supporting his treatment. Just as he was about to recover, I discovered he'd hired a lawyer to draft his will. Standing at the door, I heard Ryder dictate his will word for word. Upon my passing, my biological children and their mother Isla shall inherit all assets under my name. His childhood sweetheart Isla stood weeping at the side, holding a little boy's hand, clutching my discharge papers. I watched the family of 3 in the hospital room through gritted teeth. My heart turned to ashes. System, what penalties will I face if I abandon the mission? Steeling myself for deletion, I asked the system. The system responded in a lazy drawl. Forgot to mention, it's Ryder who gets deleted if the mission fails. 1. I walked into the ward holding my discharge papers. Isla immediately pulled away from Ryder's embrace. She clung to the boy beside her in flustered confusion. Watching her wipe away tears, I forced a smile through the lump in my throat. Why is Isla crying? I turned to look at Ryder lying on the hospital bed. Ryder, what did you do to upset Isla? Ryder avoided eye contact, guilt written all over his face. Instead of answering my question, he frowned and snapped. How did you get in here? His tone was sharp and impatient. Before I could speak, the teenager pointed at me and shouted, "Who are you? What are you doing in my father's hospital room?" Isla's face instantly paled as she shot Ryder a sidelong glance. A flicker of panic crossed Ryder's eyes before he cleared his throat awkwardly, scrambling for an explanation. Don't take it the wrong way, Camille. Kids say the darndest things. My hands buried deep in pockets, fingers clenched so tightly my nails dug crescent moons into my palms. This pain is nothing compared to the ache in my heart. Today I realized I'm nothing but a complete wretch. Ryder and I have been married for 15 years without having children of our own. For this, I feel deeply indebted to him. He kept comforting me. Camille, our love is enough. Children are just byproducts of love. All these years I believed I was living in his love. Never did I imagine he already had his own child. That kid looks to be in his early teens. No wonder he doesn't care. I forced a smile. It's all right. Poor kid never knew his father growing up. Isla shot me a glare while holding the boy. Ryder, the discharge papers are ready. We can go home tomorrow. I looked at him, forcing a casual demeanor. Thanks for handling everything, Camille. Ryder gazed at me tenderly. I turned and walked out of the ward without acknowledging Isla or her child. The door was ajar as I stood there like a thief, eavesdropping on the commotion inside. Isla, we've both endured too much suffering these 15 years. If Camille hadn't kept such a tight watch back then, I'd never have let you and our child live in shame without recognition. Isla nestled into Ryder's arms again. Ryder, I don't care about any inheritance. All I want is to grow old with you and stay together forever. But Camille has sacrificed so much for me all these years. I can't let her down, even if it means hurting you. The young boy stood nearby, clutching Ryder's hand tightly while echoing the same words, Dad. I just want our little family of 3 to stay together forever. Peering through the door crack, I watched the 3 of them embracing in tears, and suddenly felt my own sacrifices weren't worth it. For 15 years, Ryder had always been my top priority. Even when he was diagnosed with cancer and given only a 30% survival rate, I stayed by his side. Yet in the end, I became the villain who ruined his childhood sweetheart romance. Laughing bitterly at myself, I wearily summoned the system. I still couldn't make Ryder fall for me, I said dejectedly. If I give up on this conquest, when exactly will I be erased? After a few seconds, the system's lazy voice echoed in my mind. You won't be eliminated. If the conquest mission failed, clearly the target was the problem, so Ryder's the one getting wiped out. The system's voice sounded lazily digital with a hint of distortion. I froze momentarily, processing this revelation. So, if I give up the mission now, how long before he gets erased? My eyes remained shut, voice thick with emotion. Just 5 more days until your anniversary. It'll be here before you know it. 2. Ryder was discharged from the hospital the following afternoon. I made up an excuse to skip picking him up and spent the whole time tidying up at home. I've spent most of these years at the hospital, barely living at home. Now that I'm moving back permanently, naturally the place needs tidying up. Ryder still hadn't come home by evening. I sat at the dining table scrolling through my phone, staring at the cold dishes. His call came through abruptly. The background noise on his end was chaotic, with music blaring, sounded like some kind of party. I called out several times, but got no response. Just as I was about to hang up, a sweet, girlish voice suddenly came through. Ryder, you just got out of the hospital and skipped going home to throw me this birthday party. Won't Camille be mad? It was Isla. Then came the cracking voice of a teenage boy. Mom, Dad doesn't need to keep playing along with that woman's charade. All these years our family couldn't live together properly. Our home never felt like home, all because of that wretched woman. I hate her. Ryder sighed and said gently, Milo, you shouldn't speak about Aunt Camille that way. She's family to your father, and she'll be family to you too. Your father raised you better than this. Mind your manners. Then he comforted Isla. Don't worry, I just told her there's company business to handle. She doesn't know. Isla's voice lifted with sugary sweetness. Ryder, you've worked so hard. I always knew I was your favorite, of course. Who else would I love if not you? Ryder's rich baritone made those words impossibly sexy, yet to my ears, it was the ultimate sarcasm. The call disconnected at that very moment. As if those soul-crushing words had just been my hallucination, I sat alone at the dining table, numb and motionless. A film of congealed grease coated the dishes on the table. I mechanically shoveled food into my mouth. My tongue was coated with cold grease, food lodged in my throat, choking me to tears. A sudden retch sent me rushing to the bathroom before vomiting uncontrollably. Even though I'd resolved to give up on Ryder, that single phone call still made my heart ache. 20 years of feelings don't just fade overnight. Part of me still clings to foolish hope about him. All those unrealistic hopes are completely gone now. I lay half asleep on the couch. The room was pitch black, illuminated only by moonlight streaming through the window. A liquor-scented body enveloped me. Camille, why are you going to bed so early tonight? Ryder's tender voice whispered against the nape of my neck as he caressed my cheek affectionately. Where did you go today? The question slipped out before I could stop myself. Ryder hesitated briefly before brushing it off. Company meeting. I thought I told you. Stop being paranoid all the time. It's bad for your health. His tone carried a hint of impatience, suppressing the bitterness in my heart. I asked, Ryder, would you ever lie to me? He froze visibly. Camille, you're the most important person to me. Why would I ever lie to you, who's the father of Isla's child? After a brief silence, he suddenly sat up, turning his back to me with visible anger. I told you when she returned. The child's father passed away. After all these years, you're still hung up on this. Don't you trust me? In the darkness, every sense except sight becomes heightened. I could clearly sense Ryder's guilt and panic. His voice had unconsciously risen in pitch. Ryder, keep cursing yourself like this and one day it might actually come true. I couldn't be bothered to argue, forcing down the lump in my throat as I spoke. With that, I got up and headed toward the bedroom. Ryder suddenly stood up, trying to grab me, but I shook him off. Camille, I explained this to you over a decade ago. Milo's father died in an accident. After all these years without suspicion, what's gotten into you now? 3. I stopped mid-step and turned to face him. When I first met Ryder, I was instantly drawn to his striking looks. Back then, he was the golden boy, a wealthy heir who carried himself with natural aristocratic grace. Meanwhile, I was just a scholarship student struggling to make ends meet. Most students came from privileged backgrounds, and to them, I was nothing but an outsider. They bullied me relentlessly without any restraint. They glued my chair, put bugs in my desk, and even threw my backpack into the toilet. Ryder was the only exception. With a dark expression, he marched into the bathroom, fished out my backpack, handed it to me, and helped me get cleaned up. Later he declared I was under his protection. Back then, he was nothing less than a god in my eyes. After graduation, Ryder gave up everything to start his own business just to be with Isla. That's when I bound myself to the system for money, determined to win him over. He and Isla were madly in love, while I could only be his pathetic sidekick. Later, Isla embezzled funds from Ryder's company to keep her family business afloat. After the bankruptcy, Isla fled abroad without hesitation. I quit my job to help Ryder rebuild from scratch. Nearly 2 decades have passed now. We're no longer young, having stepped into middle age. After a decade of illness, streaks of silver now flecked Ryder's temples, yet couldn't diminish his natural aristocratic bearing. His features had grown more chiseled, his gaze deeper and more penetrating. But in those eyes, I might never have existed at all. So what if I'm really Milo's father? Ryder gripped my arm, his icy gaze dripping with disdain as he stared at me. You've given me no children all these years. What's wrong with keeping a son for myself? My blood ran cold when those words came out of his mouth. The premarital checkup revealed I might have fertility issues before we got married. Despite this, Ryder married me without hesitation. When he was diagnosed with cancer, I was there for him every step of the way, managed his company while accompanying him through medical treatment. The child came and went without my slightest knowledge, his face filled with tenderness and remorse as he held me, silent tears streaming down. Camille, everything I have is yours. I'll never fail you in this lifetime. Back then, I thought my sincerity was finally being recognized, yet now he's hurting me with mocking words. Trembling with rage, fat tears rolled down my cheeks and landed on his hand, as if scalded. He suddenly pulled me into his arms and whispered soothing words. I'm sorry, Camille. I shouldn't have brought this up. With every ounce of strength, I wrenched myself from his embrace and slapped him across the face. You make me sick. My stomach twisted in waves of pain that radiated straight to my aching heart. For 20 years, I've asked the system countless times if Ryder ever loved me. The answer was always no. Only now do I see clearly. Ryder's heart has always belonged to Isla. I was just his family to him. Ryder never entered the bedroom that night. Sitting by the doorway until dawn, when the first light appeared, he got a call and left in a hurry. I didn't bother asking where he went, but someone always finds a way to tell me. Isla went out of her way to message me. Ryder's at the hospital with Milo right now. Camille, you know Milo is Ryder's child. I'm advising you to file for divorce as soon as possible. In the photo, Ryder was gripping the teenager's hand with visible concern. Even his hair carried the gentle scent of a loving father. I didn't respond, just calmly turned off my phone and buried my head under the blanket. The lazy electronic voice echoed in my mind again. Host, the target will be eliminated in 3 days. You may select the termination method. I stared blankly at the ceiling, then make it look like an accident, for Ryder seemed to be avoiding me. He hadn't come home for 2 straight days. But the rumors about him never stopped during those 2 days. Isla kept obsessively updating her social media feed, deliberately leaving me unblocked. At first I'd check her posts occasionally, but eventually grew numb and blocked her instead. I sorted through Ryder's belongings and neatly arranged them in the study. Then I went straight to consult a lawyer about reclaiming all the money he'd spent on Isla over the years. It wasn't until dusk on the final day that I finally heard from him. Where are you? Let me pick you up. Pressing my lips together, I deliberately ignored the message. By the time I got home, night had fallen completely. The moment I opened the front door, chaos greeted me on the floor. Men's and women's clothes were strewn everywhere. Empty wine bottles still sat on the living room table. Once again, I stood frozen at the doorway like a burglar, straining to hear any sounds inside. Ryder, do you like seeing me in Camille's pajamas? Isla asked. Isla, I love you so much, Ryder replied. Do you think Camille will find out? I feel so guilty about this. Don't worry, baby. She's nowhere to be found, won't be coming back. Focus, darling. Those words made me so sick I immediately ran to the toilet and threw up. Facing my husband's infidelity firsthand for the first time, I felt strangely numb. My heart died long ago. Nothing but disgust remains. The system chose this moment to reappear. Host, emotional scan indicates the target currently harbors guilt toward you. I scoffed coldly. It's just his guilty conscience talking. When have I ever been in his heart? With that, I turned and headed to the guest room. After what felt like ages of their commotion, the master bedroom door suddenly swung open. Ryder urged Isla to hurry up and leave. Isla kept pestering him for a ride. The house finally quieted down as I opened the door in disgust. The clothes in the living room had been tidied up. My pajamas were lying in the laundry hamper. I frowned and tossed the clothes into the trash. The front door suddenly swung open, revealing Ryder standing there with a surprised look. Camille, when did you get back? I said sternly. Just now. Ryder approached me with an apologetic look, reaching out to pull me into an embrace, spotting the hickey on his neck. I took several steps backward. Whatever you have to say it right here. Camille, I'm sorry for what I said that day. Suddenly, I remembered our wedding day. A bunch of rich playboys surrounded him, mocking my infertility. Ashing, are you really going to marry this barren hen? Camille's just a social climbing sycophant. You could do way better than her. She looked downright pathetic back in school. Good thing she's barren. Saves your family bloodline from contamination. Ryder stood silently at the center of the group, never speaking up in protest, as if tacitly endorsing all those insults hurled at me. Right now his face was full of remorse, eyes pleading cautiously for my forgiveness. I wonder if he even remembers staying completely silent back then. I let out a soft chuckle. It's fine, I hit you too, so we're even. I went to the kitchen to pour myself some water. That pajama in the laundry hamper. Ryder's body visibly tensed up. I remember it was your first gift to me. After all these years, the clothes were getting worn out, so I threw them away. You don't mind, do you? I smiled at him with complete serenity in my eyes. Ryder froze momentarily, then nodded, perhaps sensing something was off. He followed me to the guest room, trapped in his embrace. I couldn't break free no matter how hard I struggled. Camille, I'd been too ashamed to face you these past 2 days. So, I cut him off. Ryder, do you love me? He paused, forcing a smile. Why ask that? Guess that means no, I said flatly. No, Camille, after all these years of marriage, love has long since faded away. His voice turned flustered as he rushed to explain. You're the most important person in my life, my dearest loved one. I didn't respond, simply saying, let's sleep. That night, he murmured my name repeatedly in his sleep, half-conscious. After waking from nightmares, he'd still hold me tight and ask if I'd ever leave him. Sleepless night. Next morning, Ryder got up unusually early and actually made me breakfast. I gave it a disinterested glance, said I'd lost my appetite, and headed for the door. Camille, he suddenly called out to me, hesitating before finally asking, why are all my things packed up? Oh, I replied casually, those things have been around for years. I thought I'd get you some new ones. With that, I walked out the door. Today would be Ryder's last day in this world. I sat in the office, waiting for news of his death. By now, the dull ache that once tore at my heart had completely faded. I'd long since made peace with it, feeling only the relief of impending freedom. At 2:40 p.m., Ryder was involved in a serious car accident while on his way to visit his illegitimate child at the hospital, pronounced dead after emergency hospital treatment. Ryder's finally dead. I was zoning out in the office when the news reached me. The system's slightly distorted voice crackled to life. Congratulations, host, the target has been successfully eliminated. 50 million credits have been deposited to your account. We wish you continued prosperity. Before I could react, the system vanished from my consciousness. No matter how I summoned it, the system remained unresponsive. Only then did I realize, my 20-year-long mission had finally concluded. I failed to complete the task. There were no winners these past 20 years. 5. Ryder's funeral was a modest affair, dressed in black. I stood solemnly in the funeral parlor exchanging polite condolences with mourning relatives and friends. It was at this moment that Isla barged in with a teenager named Milo. Camille, why did you take the inheritance Ryder left for me and my son? Waving the will in her hand, Isla stood screaming hysterically in the middle of the funeral hall. All eyes were on us. Some gasped in shock, others buzzed with gossip, all waiting for the drama to unfold. With a derisive snort, I snatched the will from her hands and tossed it into the brazier. Isla and that bastard screamed as they lunged for the brazier, desperate to retrieve the will, got scorched by the sudden flare-up. Isla's expensive fur coat instantly developed a gaping hole. Camille, how dare you burn the will? Isla started screaming obscenities in my face, shedding all pretense of her usual composed, independent woman persona. Ever since she returned to China, she's maintained this exact persona throughout her decade-plus career at Ryder's company. Because this will is invalid, I brushed off the dust from my clothes and said indifferently, impossible. Ryder personally consulted lawyers to draft this will in his hospital room. You were there that day. I smirked at the mother and son duo. The will states that Ryder's assets would be inherited by his biological son and the child's mother. But the truth is, he never had any assets in his name. Isla turned deathly pale, her eyes widening as she shrieked at me. Wasn't it your money that funded Ryder's medical treatments all these years? Those were marital assets. The lawyer beside me interjected, Mr. Ryder never signed a prenuptial agreement, nor did he legally separate finances from Ms. Camille during his lifetime. Isla staggered a step. Had her son not caught her, she would have fallen. I'm Ryder's son. By law, I'm entitled to inherit his property. Isla gave her son a sharp pinch, making the boy protest reluctantly. The lawyer nodded. Legally speaking, that's possible, but first you'll need to prove you're Mr. Ryder's son. Milo perked up immediately, shouting, "No problem, prove it however you want." But Isla yanked him back abruptly, covering his mouth. Looking somewhat uneasy, she asked, "With Ryder already dead, how exactly could we prove that? Simple as that." "DNA doesn't lie," I said, watching the mother and son with keen interest. Isla looked panic-stricken, while Milo clearly had no clue what was going on. "Milo's called Ryder, Dad, for over a decade. How could that possibly be fake?" Isla doubled down. People around kept saying things like, "The deceased deserves respect," arguing it's inappropriate to conduct DNA tests now. Exchanging glances with the lawyer, I nodded and said, "Ryder's estate can be allocated to this child." Isla and her son visibly brightened. But their expressions twisted with anger upon hearing what I said next, like a Sichuan opera face changer. "But since the child is still a minor, the inheritance will be held in trust until they come of age. As for the child's support obligations during these years, that remains the guardian's responsibility." "Oh, that means you, Isla." Then I pulled out a thick stack of bank statements showing all the money Ryder had spent on Isla over the years. "This child was born during my marriage to Ryder, which makes you the other woman. Every penny he spent on you came from our joint marital assets, and I have every right to reclaim it. If you fail to repay within the deadline, I'll take you to court without hesitation." My rapid-fire accusations left Isla completely dumbfounded. All that arrogance from earlier had completely vanished. Isla stammered, unable to form a complete sentence. "Wait, Isla's the other woman. I always thought she was a single mom." I actually felt sorry for her. Poor Mrs. Ryder, she stood by him through all those years of fighting cancer, only for Mr. Ryder to pass away right when he recovered. Exactly. And now this mistress and love child show up out of nowhere. Mrs. Ryder just can't catch a break. Ugh. How dare that homewrecker and her bastard child make a scene? Have they no respect for the dead? The hushed whispers around them seemed to weigh down on Isla and her son like a physical burden. Sensing the timing was right, I showed them the door. Not only did Isla walk away empty-handed, she got branded as a homewrecker behind her back. Then she hurried off with the child in tow. Turning to Ryder's portrait, I murmured, "So even you went through life unloved, Ryder." 6. Life's been soaring without Ryder around. I hired a professional manager to run my company directly, traveling the world with just a suitcase in tow. This was something I wouldn't have dared dream of during my school days. Just as I was sunbathing on a Caribbean island, the dormant system suddenly reactivated after a year of silence. That same familiar, languid electronic voice echoed in my mind, still slightly distorted. "Host, long time no see." Lying lazily on the beach, I asked, "Where have you been this past year?" "I went for advanced training. The system needs professional development too." Before I could voice that question, it cut me off. "Host, there's been an unexpected development with your mission. The target has awakened unexpectedly, discovered the mission details, and initiated a new binding protocol." I nodded silently. "The target has now revived, and their new objective is to make you fall for them again. What the hell is this? How can dead people come back to life? I've already scattered their ashes. Can you system developers get your act together? I was finally enjoying my life, and now you're telling me he's resurrected." The system replied awkwardly, "Can't help it. He offered too much. He traded his next lifetime's freedom for this walkthrough." I stayed silent. Never thought Ryder would actually go this far. If he fails the mission, I won't get erased. "Right?" I nervously asked the system. "Not at all." The system replied flatly, "Our developer is a female engineer. She only makes unfaithful men pay the price. Even if Ryder fails his mission, he'll be the only one eliminated." Hearing this, I let out a long sigh of relief. "As long as it's not me dying. So I have to go back home now?" I asked wistfully, my eyes lingering on the beach full of hunky guys with six-packs. "No need, because Ryder's already here, host. Best of luck to you." With those words, the system vanished once again. No matter how desperately I called out, it wouldn't respond. Then, a voice I hadn't heard in a year echoed in my ear. 7, Camille." A familiar voice called out. A figure blocked the sunlight before me. I looked up and saw Ryder. He came back reborn, yet remained exactly the same as before. simply gazing at me with pure delight. Camille, I've finally seen you again. Annoyed, I slipped on my sunglasses and rose to return to the hotel. He grabbed me and pulled me tightly into his embrace. I know everything now. You chose my death. You approached me with an agenda. I struggled briefly, but his arms were like iron bands, impossible to break free from. Resigned, I stopped resisting and leaned quietly against his chest. But I don't blame you, Camille. It took dying once to realize who I truly love. I've always known you loved me, ever since our school days. This time, let me be the one chasing after you, okay? Ryder's confession at this moment was utterly heartfelt. When I looked up at him, I saw his bloodshot eyes brimming with tears. He looked utterly pitiful, but I'm no longer that naive Camille who could be easily fooled with sweet words. Just seeing his face makes it impossible to forget all those years of deception. He even had another woman wear my pajamas and fool around with him in my own bed. Ryder, I suddenly burst into laughter. 20 years couldn't make you see clearly, but dying once suddenly gives you enlightenment. Then you'd better die a few more times. Who knows, you might become the next Einstein. Ryder seemed momentarily stunned by my words. In 20 years, I've never spoken to him like this. Most of the time, I've been gentle and understanding, always accommodating him. Now my words are laced with barbs. He must be struggling to adjust. Camille, he frowned, I know you resent me. Give me another chance to win you back, will you? A handsome mixed-race guy with blonde hair and blue eyes was walking toward me from nearby. He's my new boyfriend, Rowan. When he saw Ryder, his gaze was indifferent. His attention remained entirely on me. You look stunning today, babe. Let's head back to our room later. I've got a surprise for you. I broke free from Ryder's embrace and eagerly placed my hand in the handsome stranger's. Ryder desperately grabbed my other hand, his eyes reddening as tears began streaming down. He snarled through clenched teeth, "Don't you dare, Camille." I yanked my hand away impatiently. "You're being pathetic." Ryder never left, tailing me the whole time. When I was drinking with Rowan at the bar, he sat in a nearby booth staring holes through me. Rowan took me dancing, and Ryder followed us onto the floor, just stood there stiff as a board beside me. After that, whether I was eating, swimming, watching movies, or even using the restroom, he'd be waiting outside like some creepy sentinel. Ryder finally snapped when he saw me leading Rowan toward the hotel room. "Camille, must you go this far?" He grabbed my wrist and roared like a husband catching his cheating wife. I looked at him with amusement. "Mr. Ryder, what I do now is none of your business, is it? I'm your husband." "Well, my current marital status says widowed," I replied calmly. Rowan burst out laughing while watching our exchange. "Seriously, old man? Trying to claim rights from a dead guy?" Ryder seemed provoked by those words. He roared, "I'm not dead. I came back to life. Camille, you can't do this to me." Rowan looked at him like he was insane. His furious shouting immediately summoned hotel security. Several security guards forcibly escorted him out. Early next morning, I stretched and opened my door. The figure at my doorway gave me quite a start. Ryder sat slumped against my doorway, arms crossed as he dozed off. At the sound of the door opening, he rubbed his eyes and looked up, springing to his feet the moment he saw me. "Camille, have you cooled down yet?" Staggering toward me, he reached out to pull me into another embrace. I dodged aside. "I stayed up all night thinking. You were only with that guy yesterday to make me angry. Have you cooled off yet?" It suddenly hit me. This man has absolutely no shame. What kind of twisted logic led him to that conclusion? "Ryder, who the hell do you think you are?" Rubbing my sore waist, I accidentally revealed the hickey on my neck. Ryder's eyes darkened with anguish when he saw it. "Camille, when you've cooled off and had your fun, come back to me," he pleaded humbly. Before I could respond, Rowan emerged from my room. He wrapped his arms around me from behind, pulling me close against him. "Did I satisfy you last night, sis?" I nodded contentedly with half-lidded eyes. "Did you think that line just now was cool and heartfelt?" I didn't look at Ryder. Whether it's looks, physique, or performance in bed, you don't measure up to him, so what makes you think I'd ever come back to you? I gestured to the man behind me, who playfully nipped at my finger with a grin. The sight sent Ryder into a blind rage, eyes bloodshot. He shoved me aside and landed a punch square on Rowan's face. I quickly pulled him away, shielding Rowan with my body. "Ryder, have you lost your damn mind? You belong to me, you betrayed me." Ryder's eyes brimmed with hurt as he choked out the words. I let out a bitter laugh. And what about you? Were you the picture of loyalty those 20 years? 8. Ryder fell abruptly silent. He got kicked out of the hotel again and landed on their blacklist. With a heavy heart, I took Rowan to the hospital. He never asked about Ryder the whole way, only saying he'd wait until I was ready to talk. With tears in my eyes, I leaned into his embrace. While paying bills at the hospital, I spotted a familiar figure by the counter. It took me a long moment to recognize. That person was Isla. A year after Ryder's death, I filed a lawsuit to reclaim the assets. Isla vanished overnight with the children. 6 months ago, someone told me they'd spotted her abroad. Never thought I'd see her again on some tiny Caribbean island. Rowan went to get the car while I stood alone at the hospital entrance. Some bratty kid skateboarded past and bumped into me. The impact knocked me flat on the ground. Before I could even process what happened, a pair of strong hands lifted me up. Camille, are you okay? Let's get you to the hospital for a checkup. I cursed my luck, rolled my eyes, and struggled out of his embrace. I'm utterly disgusted by him. Just his touch makes me nauseous now. Why can't you mind your own business? I asked with a frown. Camille, your business has never been just business. He said those exact words to me 20 years ago. We'd just gotten together back then, working day and night to pay off debts. I ended up in the ER at midnight with acute appendicitis. Ryder rushed back from out of town. He held my hand tenderly and said those words. But after Isla returned home, I was no longer the one who could make him feel that urgency. I curled my lips into a smile and glanced at Isla standing nearby. You should be saying that to Isla instead. Ryder's voice rose involuntarily with emotion. What does Isla have to do with this? It's you I love. You who I've been married to for 20 years. Isla was just a mistake. Trust me, I'll make this right. I nodded with a smile. Sure, why don't you repeat those exact words to her? Without waiting for their reaction, I turned and got into Rowan's car, and we drove off without another word. Back at the hotel, I had someone look into why Isla came here. I just found out she's completely broke and living here illegally. She barely scrapes by volunteering for clinical drug trials. As for that illegitimate child, there's been no word about them, no idea how Ryder handled Isla. After that day at the hospital, I didn't see either of them for a whole week. That week brought not just daily yellow roses at my doorstep, but countless jewelry pieces too. One day it'd be a lavish seafood feast, the next an entire set of luxury jewelry. Even Rowan admitted he'd be moved if he were a woman. I couldn't care less about these things. I shared all the delicacies with my staff and auctioned off luxury jewelry for charity. On the 8th day, I finally cracked and summoned the system. When will Ryder be eliminated? The system yawned lazily and said, he's in quite a pickle now. It might take a while before he gives up. Isla leaked the news that he's still alive, and now she's pestering him for money. I listened to the system's report with a slight frown. Rowan sidled up to me, greedily inhaling the scent of my body wash. What's wrong? Ran into some trouble. I looked at him apologetically. I might have to ask you to be my side piece for a while. I thought it was something serious. He chuckled while holding my hand. As long as you love me, I'd be willing to be not just your third, but fourth or fifth will too. 9. I reached out to Ryder first. His eyes lit up when he saw me. He immediately brightened and moved closer to me. Camille, you're finally not mad anymore. I reached out to stop him. The world knows your death was staged, so our marriage still stands. I asked you here today to file for divorce. Ryder looked stunned. Over my dead body. You're not divorcing me while I'm still breathing. There's actually a much simpler solution. Just give up on this quest now. Get yourself erased, and spare me all this trouble. My words visibly wounded him. He stood with downcast eyes, pleading silently, won't you really give me one more chance? Without responding, I rose to leave. He stood up too, trying to pester me. Then Isla cut in abruptly. A year apart had stripped Isla of her former grace and refinement. The experimental drugs this past year left her face puffy and her figure distorted. Her greasy hair hung limp, and her ill-fitting clothes were smeared with grime. By Isla's side trailed that bastard child, Milo, Ryder. Are you abandoning us, your own flesh and blood? Do you have any idea what we've been through all this time? Isla fell to her knees before him with the child in her arms and began weeping. That bitch Camille is reclaiming the assets and handed your inheritance to the Foundation. We're left penniless. I had to flee abroad with Milo. Ryder, you heartless bastard. Are you really going to abandon us now? Isla was sobbing uncontrollably, dragging her son into her hysterics, after a year apart. The boy had shed his funeral restraint completely. He'd gone as mad as his mother. Dad, I've never gotten to live with you. You always told me to wait, but after all these years Mom and I waited. Now you're begging forgiveness from another woman. Camille's the homewrecker. Homewrecker. Ryder was getting a headache from all the noise this mother and son were making. At first he felt some sympathy for them, but when he heard the kid call me a homewrecker, he suddenly flew into a rage. He slapped the child across the face. Don't you dare spout nonsense. Your mother's the homewrecker, and you're just a bastard. The only reason you two are still alive today is because of Camille's kindness. Stunned by the slap, Milo gaped at Ryder before stammering, my mom says, the one who isn't loved is the real homewrecker. Camille, I asked the other woman. Slap. Another slap landed. Isla shrieked and lunged forward, clawing at Ryder. Milo joined his mother's assault, throwing punches at him. I stood behind them with folded arms, watching the whole spectacle unfold. Actually, besides meeting Ryder today, I also arranged to see Isla. When I told her Ryder was with me, she came straight over with the kids. There was a phone hidden in the potted plant behind me, live streaming everything that just happened, just like that. I tore away the facade Ryder had maintained for 20 years. The internet must be exploding with outrage right now. A bystander called the police without understanding the situation. The police arrived quickly and took us all to the station. 10. When we got out of the station, Ryder ignored Isla's pulling and cursing, rushing straight to me with his battered face. Camille, you saw it today. There's absolutely nothing between me and Isla anymore. Can you forgive me? I stood by the roadside waiting for Rowan, refusing to look his way. Camille, what exactly do I need to do for you to forgive me? If apologies actually worked, what would we need the police for? I asked him with a smile that never reached my eyes. By now, netizens back home must have heard everything that happened today. You'd better start thinking about how we're dividing the assets. Ryder narrowed his eyes with displeasure after hearing me out. You set me up, I snapped back. Call it even. You've pulled your fair share of schemes on me over the years. While I was scouring the country for top specialists to help you, you were busy canoodling with Isla. While I was single-handedly keeping the company afloat for you, you were out romancing Isla. Ryder, you owe me all this. That bitch Isla seduced me. He roared. It's always been you, Camille. I just realized it too late. With a trembling voice, Ryder clutched my hand and buried his face in my palm. I felt a dampness in my cupped hand, his devout tears, no doubt. Did Isla force you to cheat? Did I force you to have a child with someone else? Ryder, you're nothing but a greedy bastard with zero accountability. Stop making excuses. You're absolutely disgusting to me right now. Ryder slowly lifted his head, tears glistening at the corners of his eyes. His shoulders slumped abruptly. Get divorced as soon as possible, if you still have a conscience. With that, I turned and got into Rowan's car. 11. The Caribbean has recently entered its rainy season. The island often gets drenched by sudden downpours. I've been waiting for flights to resume these days, spending all my time holed up in the hotel with Rowan. That's when Ryder appeared outside my window. The torrential rain had drenched him from head to toe. He stood motionless in the garden outside, staring blankly at my bedroom window. Rowan leaned against the floor-to-ceiling window and said with reluctant sympathy, why not let him in? At this rate, he'll catch his death out there. Perfect. Then I'll be a widow and spare myself the divorce paperwork. I was buried in the company's financial reports, not even looking up. The next morning, the weather finally cleared up. Ryder remained curled up outside my window. Rowan stepped forward to check his temperature, then took him to the hospital. We then took our luggage to the airport and flew back home. I saw Ryder again a week later. Isla and Milo came back with him. We arranged to meet at the law firm to sign the divorce papers. Ryder's face lit up with hope and delight the moment he saw me. Camille, you must have been worried about me when you took me to the hospital that day, right? Have you forgiven me? I gave him a sardonic look. What a waste that vivid imagination of yours isn't writing cheesy romance novels. Isla trailed closely behind Ryder, rolling her eyes at me the moment she saw me. Sign the divorce papers already. We'll go to the civil affairs office once the cooling-off period ends. I ignored her eye roll and walked straight into the meeting room. Since Ryder was at fault, He insisted on leaving the marriage with nothing. Right after signing the agreement, Isla threw a tantrum at the law firm's entrance. Screaming at Ryder for being heartless, I put on my sunglasses and walked away. Little did I know Ryder would shout after me, "Camille, I swear I'll win you back." I walked out of the law firm without looking back. What rotten luck. After the divorce, Ryder just wouldn't let go, chasing me from abroad all the way back home. He went as far as holding a press conference, publicly admitting his affair and apologizing to me in front of national reporters. Then came heartfelt confessions, claiming the divorce was meant to be with me properly. Promised to throw me an extravagant wedding ceremony, to make up for past regrets. I scoffed at all these empty promises. Rowan and I quietly got our marriage license. The day we announced our wedding happened to be when Ryder planned to propose to me live on stream. Just as he showed up at the hotel with $1 million ring and a pack of reporters to ambush me, Rowan and I arrived holding our marriage certificate. All of Ryder's efforts these past days turned into a complete joke. Rowan straight up roasted him to his face in front of the media. "Old man, you're way too old to be pulling this prodigal son returns act. Where was this energy years ago?" Ryder knelt on one knee, staring dumbfounded at the marriage certificate in my hand as his diamond ring clattered to the floor. "To all our media friends, my marriage with Mr. Ryder is now part of the past." Seizing the moment before he could react, I announced my marriage directly on camera. "This is my current husband, Mr. Rowan. We'd appreciate your blessings." Rowan and I smiled radiantly as we fielded questions from the press. Ryder looked utterly dejected, slumping to the ground. "No, this can't be happening. Camille, you're messing with me, aren't you? You're still pissed off, right?" Like a madman, he grabbed me by the throat right in front of the camera, roaring. Rowan kicked him out effortlessly, sneering, "How dare you lay a finger on my beloved? You're way out of your league." Just as Ryder staggered to his feet and was about to charge, Isla appeared out of nowhere, brandishing her dagger. She let out a battle cry and lunged at Ryder. "You heartless bastard, how dare you reject me? I bore you a son, 20 years I've followed you without status or recognition." With a sickening thunk, the dagger plunged into Ryder's abdomen. Blood instantly gushed forth. A collective gasp rose from the crowd. The reporters immediately trained their cameras on Ryder and Isla. No one could have predicted that the media Ryder invited to witness his happy moment would end up covering his life hanging by a thread. Isla was quickly subdued by police while Ryder was rushed to the hospital. All his carefully laid plans had turned into a cruel joke. 12. Ryder woke up 3 days later. The moment he came to, he demanded to see me. My assistant told me this while I was preparing for my honeymoon with Rowan. Rowan glanced at me, seeking my opinion. "There's nothing worth seeing. Let him rot." Rowan waved his assistant away. "Aren't you curious how Ryder would react when he finds out about that illegitimate child?" The man's eyes sparkled with mischievous gleam. "Honestly, I'm not particularly interested in this matter. After all, whether Ryder's alive or dead is none of my concern now." But seeing the puppy-eyed curiosity, I felt obliged to indulge his inquisitiveness. I followed him to the hospital. Ryder became paralyzed due to cerebral hypoxia, sitting slumped in his wheelchair, utterly dejected. When he saw me, his eyes still sparkled with life. "Sir, we're here on someone else's behalf." I remained silent. It was Rowan who spoke. "Ms. Isla refuses to cooperate with lawyers. She insists on seeing only you. I understand your current health condition won't permit it, so I'll relay Ms. Isla's request. She wants you to take good care of your son." Ryder couldn't form complete sentences, only managing a nod. Then he gazed at me with profound tenderness. "By the way," Rowan stepped between us, blocking his line of sight, "here's a police-issued DNA test regarding your illegitimate child. You might want to take a look. I believe you have the right to know this." Ryder read through the forensic report while holding Rowan's hand. In a fit of rage, he headbutted the papers away. He let out a strangled growl, utterly speechless for a long moment, rolling eyes hard. The doctors performed emergency resuscitation on him. Flickers of consciousness remained before they wheeled him into the OR. I laughed aloud watching him get dumped onto the gurney like a sack of potatoes. "Ryder, you poor thing." 13. Isla's definitely going away for life. That bastard won't get Ryder's inheritance since he's not his child. Ryder wasn't obligated to support him either. The child was sent to an orphanage. His bad temper made him a frequent target of bullying by other kids at the orphanage. One night, he finally snapped from the isolation and sneaked out to look for Ryder. On the way to the hospital, they were hit by a drunk driver speeding down the road. The impact sent them flying 100 meters, and they were pronounced dead at the scene despite emergency efforts. After marrying Rowan, we began traveling the world together. The next time I heard from Ryder was already 2 years later. The long-lost system voice echoed in my mind once more. Host, it's been a while. After all this time apart, I found myself strangely nostalgic for that electronic tone. Been gone so long. Did you go for more training? Of course not. I've been with you all along. Just in a different way. The system shed its usual lethargy. System alert. Ryder has abandoned the mission and faces termination. Requests final audience with host. I stretched lazily. Whether he lives or dies means nothing to me now. Ryder's final will states that all his assets are to be left to you. I poured myself a glass of water and nodded. After all, he walked away with nothing during the divorce, so there's hardly any property under his name now. Whether this will exist or not makes no difference. I scanned the room but surprisingly didn't spot Rowan anywhere. Normally he'd be glued to my side. Wonder where he's disappeared to today. System. Do you know where my husband went? I don't know what came over me when I blurted out that question. The system suddenly fell silent. No matter how loudly I called, there was no response. Just as I stood there puzzled, a familiar voice suddenly spoke behind me. Host, I'm right here. I turned around to see Rowan's handsome face smiling at me from the doorway. Host, I forgot to mention, you signed up for a lifetime system. From now on, I'll be by your side forever. No turning back. The end. Story 2, my name is Valerie, and I've been reborn. 1. On the 21st day of the apocalypse, the remaining food at home isn't enough to support 3 people. Unfortunately, I was abandoned. My best friend and my boyfriend tied me up and threw me into the horde of zombies. When I opened my eyes again, I blinked at the ceiling, feeling confused and panicked. It seemed that the pain of being bitten by the zombies still lingered around my neck. It must be a dream. Maybe I've watched too many zombie movies these 2 days, so I dreamed of all this, but everything I experienced in the dream was so real. I picked up my phone and checked the time. It was May 13th, 2026, 2 months before the zombie outbreak in the dream. I turned over and got out of bed, then washed my face to wake myself up. Just as I came out of the bathroom, the doorbell rang. Subconsciously, I wanted to lock the door to prevent the person outside from coming in. The doorbell rang again. I shook my head to dispel the thoughts in my mind and opened the door. Outside the door were my best friend Vivian and my boyfriend Nolan. At the sight of them, I felt nauseous, and the scene of them throwing me into the zombie horde flashed in my mind. Did you meet downstairs and come up together? This question seemed familiar. I seemed to have asked the same thing in the dream. A trace of guilt flashed across Vivian's face, and then she affectionately clung to my arm. Wow, Valerie. You're so prescient. I just met Nolan when I came here, so we came up together. Ordinarily, I would have believed it, but because of the dream, I became cautious when looking at the 2 of them. Naturally, I didn't miss the guilty look on Vivian's face. I suppressed my thoughts and let the 2 of them in without showing anything. You 2 sit down. I'll get something to drink. In the kitchen, I recalled last night's dream. In the dream, I would give them 2 glasses of honey water. Vivian would taste Nolan's water, saying that I valued men over friends, and Nolan would deliberately drink from the side with Vivian's lipstick mark. Everything was developing as in the dream. Vivian drank Nolan's water and played around, making me promise that she was the most important person in my heart. In the dream, I coaxed her, but now, I stared at my phone. Soon, a message popped up saying that the diva Willow would hold her final concert in City B. It seemed that everything wasn't a dream. I had been reborn and returned to the time before the zombie outbreak. Nolan and Vivian had already been together for a long time. I just didn't find out because I trusted them too much. They were having an affair right in front of me. It was really about seeking excitement. Thinking about what they had done in my previous life, I couldn't wait to kill them. Calm down, don't be impulsive. This wasn't the right time for revenge. I would make them feel the pain of being bitten by zombies. Just wait, I'll make them suffer. Reborn. I must protect myself this time and hold on until the zombies are eliminated. So, I pretended to be apologetic to the 2 of them and said, someone contacted me about buying the copyright of my book and asked me to go and talk about it. I can't accompany you. Do you need me to send you there? Nolan asked. but he didn't show any intention of getting up. I rolled my eyes silently and said, "No need, you can send Vivian back. It's not convenient for her to take a taxi. I can drive there myself." Nolan didn't decline and said okay before leaving. As soon as they went out, I angrily threw the cups they had used into the trash and cursed them as a shameless couple. I grew up in an orphanage. They were the closest people to me. I never expected that the family I chose would stab me in the back. In my previous life, when the zombies first broke out, they were trapped in a hotel and asked me for help. I drove to rescue them regardless of the danger. Nolan told me not to misunderstand. He said he wanted to give me a surprise proposal in the hotel and asked Vivian to help him set it up. In my previous life, I trusted them too much and was very touched, so I went to save them. Thinking about it now, I was so stupid. There were no decorations in the room except for the traces of them taking a shower. Because I had the habit of stockpiling food, there was enough food at home. At first, we got along peacefully. As time passed, there were more and more zombies outside, and zombies even appeared at the door of our house. Because of the zombies at the door, we couldn't go out to find food. Gradually, the food wasn't enough, and they set their sights on me. At first, they controlled my diet, only giving me a little food a day to keep me alive. I resisted, but I couldn't win against the two of them. They tied me up. Later, when the food was in short supply, they finally killed me. They threw me into the zombie horde from the window. The surrounding zombies pounced on me, and I was bitten to death. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but shiver. Since they dared to offend me, they should be prepared for revenge. They were having an affair right under my nose. They really thought I was easy to mess with, but now, the most important thing was to prepare to survive before the zombie outbreak. I opened my phone and calculated my savings. It was a total of 193 yuan. I'm an online writer. Half a year ago, I sold the copyright of 2 novels, bought a house, paid the taxes, after deducting the daily living expenses. This was all that was left, thinking that more was better, and that money would be useless after the zombie outbreak. I immediately contacted a real estate agent and put the house up for sale at a price 300,000 yuan lower than the market price. In my previous life, the city I lived in was densely populated, and most people were infected. There were too many zombies in that city, and there weren't many people left, which was not conducive to survival. I remembered going to a small town with a small population. There was a villa area developed there. But because it was too remote and the transportation was inconvenient, few people bought houses there. That place was very suitable for me to survive in the apocalypse. Immediately, I found the phone number of the villa sales office online, made an appointment, and bought a ticket to City D. Then I took a bus to the small county and rented a car to go to the town. 3 hours later, I finally arrived at the place and met the agent. Finally, I bought the innermost villa at the edge with a down payment of 1 million yuan. The agent drove me to the city. I booked a 5-star hotel. I wanted to enjoy every day before the apocalypse came. I had been busy all day and hadn't eaten well. While running a bath, I ordered takeout, including 6 hairy crabs, marinated chicken feet, a seafood platter, and a large bucket of cola. When the takeout arrived, I ate while watching TV. After a busy day, delicious food was the most healing. After eating, I went to take a bath. The warm water relieved my fatigue and tension of the day. 2. After getting up and having breakfast, I started to get busy. First, I went to a second-hand car dealership and bought a Wuling Hongguang van. Then I went to a neighboring county and rented a room, planning to have the supplies delivered there so as not to expose myself. By the time I finished these things, it was already afternoon. I didn't dare to delay and went to the large wholesale market in the city to buy supplies. I didn't plan to buy too much food. On the one hand, the shelf life of food wasn't that long. On the other hand, I also wanted to leave some way for others to survive. I ordered a total of 50 boxes of instant noodles, with 24 packs in each box. They could be soaked or eaten dry. I also took 50 boxes of self-heating hot pots of various flavors, 30 bags of 10 kilograms rice and 30 bags of 10 kilograms flour. Handmade noodles had salt in them and could be stored for a longer time, so I bought more. Each bundle was 5 kilograms, and I took 40 bundles. I also took 10 boxes each of instant foods like lotus root starch, soybean milk powder, and black sesame paste. I also collected a sack of dried mushrooms, 2 sacks of dried kidney beans, a sack of dried vegetable leaves, and a sack of dried bean curd sticks and other dried vegetables. I bought a tricycle load of potatoes, sweet potatoes, and Chinese cabbages. They could be stored in the basement for a longer time. Fresh vegetables couldn't be stored for long, but the dried ones could last for a year or two. I bought a lot of meat because it was filling and had high energy. I took 400 g of dried beef and 400 g of dried pork. I asked the boss to chop 50 chickens into pieces, cut 400 g of beef into 500-gram portions, slice 300 g of pork into 250-gram portions, and cut 40 fish into pieces. I also bought 200 g of shrimp and divided them into 500-gram portions. I also bought a lot of canned fruits, canned meat, and compressed biscuits. Seasonings were also necessary. I bought 30 boxes each of oil, salt, sauce, and vinegar, 20 boxes each of Chinese prickly ash, star anise, and aniseed, and 60 barrels of 10 kilograms cooking oil. I bought 10 woks, steamers, and rice cookers each. 60 boxes of alcohol blocks with 100 pieces in each box, and 20 alcohol stoves. I also took a lot of daily necessities like toilet water, mosquito coils, scissors, and candles. Daily necessities were very important. I took 200 boxes of toilet paper, 80 boxes of sanitary napkins, and 60 boxes each of toothbrushes, toothpaste, shower gel, and shampoo. By the time I finished all these things, it was almost dark. I left the address and asked for the supplies to be delivered to the room tomorrow. I drove around the pharmacies in the city. I bought 30 bottles of pure vitamin C in small white bottles, 50 bottles of vitamin C chewable tablets, 10 boxes of cold medicine granules, 50 boxes of Cefixime, 10 boxes of large bottles of alcohol, several pieces of gauze, 2 boxes of Band-Aids, and some medicine for stomachache and diarrhea. I also bought 30 bottles of Yunnan Baiyao powder and some other medicines. After buying all these things, I returned to the hotel, ordered takeout casually, and fell asleep as soon as I lay in bed. Early the next morning, I received a delivery call and made an appointment for the delivery time. I drove towards the neighboring county. On the way, I passed by the agricultural materials market and bought a lot of vegetable and grain seeds, planning to plant them in the yard behind the villa, which could ensure the sustainable supply of my food. I also bought fertilizers, plastic films, sickles, pesticides, shovels, ropes, and other things related to farming. When I arrived at the room, I watched the workers unload the goods. After checking them, I drove back to the city and contacted several decoration teams from other provinces. By offering more money, I convinced them to come and work in a different place. I told them that I planned to set up an immersive script killing place and wanted to renovate the villa. I hired a total of 4 decoration teams. They rebuilt the foundation, raised the courtyard wall to 3 meters, thickened it to 1 meter wide, added more cement to the outer layer, and laid a wire mesh on top and electrified it. There was a basement in the villa. I asked the construction team to knock down the original door and stairs leading to the basement and build a wall. I changed the entrance to under the floor of the study on the first floor and installed a hidden switch. It couldn't be discovered at a glance. I also added an exit leading to the yard and camouflaged it. I sealed the balconies, laid solar panels on the roof, and installed a solar power generation system, ensuring that I could still have normal electricity for my daily life even if there was a power outage. I also ordered double-layer explosion-proof windows, pasted anti-peeping films, and installed 3 kinds of doors. The outermost layer was a thick iron door, the middle layer was a metal door, and the innermost layer was an ultra-thick explosion-proof door. When the door seller asked me about it, I said it was part of the decryption link of the script killing. The seller praised that young people nowadays really knew how to have fun. While the decoration was in full swing, I took the opportunity to go to the market and bought 10 radios, 20 solar charging treasures, 30 emergency lighting lamps, 6 barbecues, 2 high-powered telescopes, 20 flashlights, and 10 boxes of batteries. I also bought quilts, clothes, tablets, books, and various other things. I also ordered 5 large freezers and large storage racks and put them in the basement before the door of the basement was sealed. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, a month and a half passed, and it was June 28, 2026. The decoration of the yard was also completed. I asked for a pile of sand and cement to be brought and piled at the door. I didn't let them remove the construction fence and just said that I would call to notify them to continue the decoration inside in a month. From the outside, it looked like a construction site that hadn't been decorated yet. No one would expect that there was a hidden world inside. After the decoration here was completed, the supplies could be moved in. I drove my van to the room and moved the things back bit by bit. To avoid being discovered, I had to do it alone. It took me 5 days to move all the things in the room. Looking at the shelter with food and drinks, I felt full of security. At this time, the agent contacted me and said that the house had been sold for 2.46 million yuan. After settling the final payment for the explosion-proof door and the construction team, I still had more than 500,000 yuan left. I added some more food and daily necessities and bought a lot of books, game consoles, and other things to relieve boredom. There were still 10 days before the zombie outbreak. The next day after I put the house on the internet, Nolan called me and asked me why I sold the house. I made an excuse and said that I planned to buy a villa and write his name on it as our wedding house, but I was still short of money, so I planned to write books in seclusion for a while and couldn't accompany him. When Nolan heard that I was going to buy a villa for him, he was so excited that he told me to write well and that he didn't need my company, so I wasn't disturbed by him for the next 2 months. Now that the shelter was almost ready, it was time to deal with the two of them. 3. When Nolan wasn't at home, I went and installed a micro camera. I also rented 5 rooms near him. In the first room, I put 7 packs of instant noodles, 5 bottles of mineral water, and 5 packs of potato chips. If there were disputes over who got more or less, they would bear grudges. In the second room, I put a box of self-heating rice, 10 boxes of instant noodles, and 2 packs of mineral water. There were a lot of things and people here. They not only had to avoid the zombies but also worried about others' competition. The door here wasn't strong. In the third room, I put anti-inflammatory drugs, a pack of mineral water, and a box of self-heating hot pot. Let them have a good rest here, but I didn't want them to die prematurely. In the fourth room, there was only a knife and a letter. The letter read, "Only one of you can survive. I'll give the food to the one who survives. If both of you are alive, I won't give any food. It depends on the two of you who will live and who will die. It would be interesting to make them fight among themselves." In the fifth room, there was only a remotely controlled speaker. Once he, she, or they entered, I would turn on the speaker to attract the zombies and let them be bitten to death. I wouldn't give them a chance to live. After arranging everything and installing the camera, I returned to the villa and planned to have a good rest. When I was almost asleep in bed, a knock on the door woke me up. I picked up a baseball bat, walked towards the door quietly, thinking that I should install a surveillance camera at the door tomorrow. I went to the door and peeked outside through the cat's eye on the outermost door. It was the security guard. I didn't make a sound. He seemed to sense that I was standing at the door and said, "Don't be nervous. My name is Oscar. Maybe we're the same kind of people. You know about the zombies, right?" When I heard what he said, my breath seemed to stop. It took me a while to recover. "What are you talking about? I don't understand." "Zombies? You've watched too many movies." I controlled my trembling voice and tried to sound calm. "I mean no harm. There are only you and me living in the east area of this community. I live in the villa next to yours. I know you have your concerns, but maybe we can cooperate. You don't have many weapons, do you?" Oscar's voice came. Could it be that he had been monitoring me usually, although the end of the world hadn't come yet and he seemed kind usually? I still refused to open the door for him. After all, it wasn't safe at night. "It's too late. You should go back. I'll think about it and come to find you at dawn," I replied firmly. When he heard what I said, he seemed to realize that it wasn't a good time to come to me so late and said, "Okay." Before leaving, after watching him leave, I rushed to the 3rd floor and looked at the villa next door. After a while, I saw the window on the 3rd floor of that villa open, and the light shone out. Oscar stood in front of the window and waved at me. It seemed that he wasn't lying to me. Had he also been reborn? Many questions arose in my heart, and I could only wait until dawn to ask him. I had no dreams that night. As soon as it was light, I got up, washed up in a hurry, and went to the security office to find Oscar. When I arrived, Oscar hadn't come yet. I observed at the door for a while. Indeed, few people were entering or leaving the east area. When Oscar saw me from a distance, He joked, "You're here quite early." He seemed very friendly. I observed him. He was wearing a white short-sleeved shirt and suit pants. He had long legs and looked about 188 centimeters tall. He was very muscular. There was a harmless smile on his clean face, and his eyes were firm. He seemed like an honest person. Oscar opened the security office and invited me in. "Come in and have a seat." I sat on the chair without speaking and just looked at him. Oscar laughed when he saw me. "It's right to be a bit cautious. When I went back yesterday, I saw that you had finished moving things. I thought you should have almost finished your preparations. So I knocked on the door and wanted to cooperate with you. I didn't think it through and scared you." Seeing that I didn't speak, Oscar continued, "I noticed you when you brought the decoration team. Your decoration made me think that you might be like me and know that the zombies would break out. I don't know how you knew. I had the same dream for a week 3 months ago, dreaming of the zombie outbreak. My dreams are usually very accurate. Besides, I had the same dream for a week. So I started making preparations." He spoke very frankly. He probably wasn't lying to me. I was reborn. I told Oscar about my experience. After hearing my story, Oscar looked at me sympathetically. "You really made a bad choice of friends. How do you plan to get revenge on them?" I didn't answer and just said that I had my own plans and he would know when the time came. Oscar didn't ask further and changed the subject. "I see that you don't have many weapons. Let's cooperate. At least we can be each other's company. We can definitely get through this together," Oscar suggested. I looked at Oscar's physique. Indeed, the chance of survival was a bit higher if I cooperated with him than if I were alone, so I nodded in agreement. When he saw that I agreed, Oscar urgently pulled me to see his shelter. On the way, he asked me why I didn't talk much, and I said I was just like that. He grinned and said he was the same. When we arrived at Oscar's house, it looked the same as the other houses in the community on the surface, but there was a hidden world inside. He had dug another layer under the original basement and moved all the activities on the ground underground. The first basement floor was his living area, and it was fully furnished. The second basement floor was the storage space. He had even more food stocked up than I did, and there were all kinds of things. He then took me to see his weapons. There were all kinds of swords, chainsaws, anti-riot forks, and anti-riot shields. I suspected that he became a security guard just to get these things. There were also bulletproof vests and other controlled items. I didn't know how he got them. He then took me to the monitoring room. He connected the community surveillance to his home. He could see whoever entered the community as soon as they reached the gate. Oscar said that since he decided to build a shelter, he had been looking for a suitable place. This villa area, which was isolated from everywhere, was the most suitable. In order to better understand the community, he applied for the security guard position here and started his renovation. He pointed to the hidden place in the corner and said, "I dug a tunnel leading to your house. As soon as you agree, I'll dig through it. There are 2 entrances, one leading to your house and the other leading to the back mountain outside. We can escape from here when there's danger." I looked at him in surprise and slowly gave him a thumbs up. "You really have some tricks. Aren't you afraid that I won't admit that I know about the zombies and all this digging will be in vain?" Oscar looked at me with a cunning smile. "You will definitely agree. After all, one more person means one more layer of protection, right?" I was speechless and actually too lazy to argue with him. In the next few days, we started digging the tunnel, and I also asked Oscar to train my physique. Oscar also moved to my place and connected the monitoring system here. The windows of Oscar's house were explosion-proof, and the outer door was the standard aluminum door of the community, but the inner door was an explosion-proof door. Soon, it was a week before the zombie outbreak. Oscar and I dressed up and sent a letter to the mayor's mailbox, which said that the zombies were coming and where they would first appear, afraid that they wouldn't believe it. I also mentioned several major events that were about to happen to prove it. This was all I could do. As long as it didn't endanger myself, I was willing to help everyone. After waiting for 2 days, just as I was considering whether to write another letter, the government issued an announcement saying that a new virus was coming and asking everyone to stock up on supplies and stay at home as much as possible. A small number of people didn't believe it and said it wasn't necessary, but the vast majority stocked up on supplies at home for safety. I turned on the surveillance of Nolan's house. He and Vivian had already moved in together while I was away. When they saw the announcement, Vivian suggested going out to buy some things as a precaution. I had given them a chance to stock up on supplies, so I immediately called them, pretending not to know that they were living together. I told Nolan that I would be back the day after tomorrow and would bring a lot of supplies. So he didn't need to buy anything. I said the same to Vivian. They had been relying on me for a long time. When they heard what I said, they went back to the sofa and started playing with their phones. They also whispered behind my back, calling me a fool and a sycophant. Let them scold. They won't be able to scold anymore in a few days. There was one day left before the zombie outbreak. Oscar and I were in a heavy mood. We locked the community gate. We had done everything we could. We just hoped that humanity would win and the country would protect us. To ease our mood, Oscar suggested having hot pot at home today. Coincidentally, Oscar had bought a lot of fresh fruits a few days ago. Eating watermelon and having hot pot in the air-conditioned room was really nice. After dinner, Oscar and I carefully checked everything to make sure everything was foolproof. For, early the next morning, I opened my phone and saw the push message. There was an incident of a man biting someone at a certain station. The biting man and the bitten person had been controlled. I also swiped and saw several incidents of people biting others in various places. This was the time when the zombie outbreak happened in my previous life. But this time, because of the government's intervention, there were few people bitten. At noon, I saw some official videos. Experts speculate that this is a new virus. The residents are asked to stay at home and not go out. If someone in your home has a high fever, isolate them immediately. The government will send drones to distribute daily necessities. Private drones are prohibited from flying during this period. The country will not give up on anyone. Please rest assured. Even with the precautions, the number of people bitten spread. In the video, there were flesh and blood zombies wandering on the street, biting people, with blood flowing, and making wulu wulu roars. The comments under the video were diverse. Thanks to the government's reminder, I stocked up on food at home. Everyone, come on, we will definitely get through this. My son is still at work outside. I don't know how he is. I hope he doesn't have an accident. Is this for real? I didn't stock up on food. Who can sell me some? There were also some bold people who went to the street and started a live broadcast. He said he wasn't afraid of the zombies but was afraid that everyone wouldn't follow him. It was only when the people in the live broadcast saw a group of zombies surround him and bite off his flesh that they realized what a disaster this was. Oscar sat next to me and comforted me. We have done everything we could. Now it's up to the country. I turned off my phone and nodded. Even though I had experienced it once, it was still very impactful. Ring, 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 a phone call came. I picked up the phone. Nolan asked loudly, Valerie, where are you? Now there are zombies everywhere. Since you didn't let us stock up on supplies, what should we eat? Vivian is already with me. You come to us with the supplies quickly. I was really angry when I heard this and said coldly, there's no food left. I thought you two could be full just by kissing. Nolan then realized something. You know about it. You bitch, Valerie, you did it on purpose. He said it as a statement. I sneered. There are two options in front of you. One is to listen to me, and the other is to wait for death. Vivian quickly said, we choose the first option. Valerie, please forgive us. We will listen to you. Now that there are zombies everywhere, we should unite. In the surveillance, Nolan gestured to Vivian, asking her to curry favor with me. I sent a photo of myself with a lot of supplies to Nolan and Vivian on WeChat respectively. I made sure they saw it and then withdrew it. You've seen it. I have the ability to keep you alive, so don't play any tricks and be obedient. When they saw that I had so many supplies, they immediately became obsequious and kept promising to be obedient and do whatever I asked. I said to them in a satisfied tone, I'll give you a way to survive. I told them the location of the first room and the password. There's some food I put there. You can go and get it. After that, I hung up the phone. Since they were close by, they called me at night and said they had arrived. When they entered the room, I turned on the surveillance and also heard Nolan and Vivian's curses. Nolan urgently opened a pack of potato chips and stuffed them into his mouth. Then he opened a bottle of water and took a big gulp. After eating and drinking his fill, he started scolding me. That bitch, Valerie, how dare she play tricks on me? When I see her, I'll teach her a lesson. Vivian chimed in. That bitch has stocked up so many things. We should curry favor with her first. She's just venting her anger by tormenting us now. When we see her, if we throw her to the zombies, all those things will be ours. they have to be alive to see me first. I turned off the surveillance and ignored them for now. Oscar came back to the monitoring room and looked at the screen. Currently, the community and the streets were safe. Since the zombie outbreak started, I watched the surveillance during the day, and Oscar watched it at night. I cooked at noon, and he cooked in the afternoon. They managed to survive there for 5 days, but they ran out of food even with saving. They called me and said they had no food left. I told them about the second room and also said that although there was a lot of food, it was also very dangerous, and it was up to them whether to go or not. When Nolan and the others heard that there was a lot of food, they didn't care and shouted, "It's okay, we'll be careful, we're almost starving to death." Then they hung up on me. I could only wish them good luck. I turned on the surveillance of the second room and couldn't wait to watch that was about to happen. Nolan and the others were a bit lucky and managed to reach the second room unharmed. When they saw the food in the room, they let down their guard. They closed the door but didn't notice a figure following and observing them from a distance. After Nolan and Vivian ate and drank their fill, they fell asleep without calling me. In the middle of the night, they were awakened by a violent crashing sound. The person who had been following them led a team of 7 people and broke in. The leader of the group glanced at the food in the room, and his eyes lit up with joy. Then he ordered his subordinates, "Take these things back." When Vivian saw these people taking their things, she immediately started cursing, "Don't take them, you bunch of robbers, damn it, don't touch my things." The group wasn't angry. They looked at Vivian and Nolan like they were garbage and laughed. "Beat them up so they don't bite randomly." When they heard the leader's order, the underlings went up and punched and kicked Nolan and the others. They were beaten black and blue, and their noses were bleeding. The leader threw a pack of instant noodles at them. "Here, this is for your medical expenses." Then they left. After they recovered for a while, they called me. Nolan was furious and shouted into the phone, "Did you do this on purpose? We've been beaten up. You've vented your anger. Come and pick us up quickly, or I won't forgive you." I did it on purpose, but I couldn't say it. Pretending not to know anything, I said, "What's wrong? What do you mean by venting my anger? I just wanted you to make some effort to come to me. I was afraid you'd be in danger, so I prepared supplies for you along the way." Vivian was afraid that Nolan would anger me, so she quickly explained to me that another group of people had robbed them of their supplies just now. "I told you there was danger, but you didn't listen and hung up the phone. Now look at what happened. I was angry with you, but I wouldn't harm you like this. There's medicine in this place. You can go there. Come to me once you've rested." I told them the location of the third room and then hung up the phone. I really wouldn't harm them like this, because I want their lives. I stayed in front of the surveillance of the third room, after Oscar and I took turns keeping watch for 2 days, just when I thought they had died on the way. Nolan and Vivian supported each other and pushed open the door of the third room. They had injuries all over their bodies, and their clothes were stained with blood. They looked really pitiful. Nolan and Vivian were also in a sluggish mental state, looking as if they were about to die. I called them. I pretended to be enthusiastic and said to them, "I forgive you. Come to me." I guided them to the fourth room. Nolan just grunted and hung up the phone. The two of them lay in the third room for another 2 days. They didn't communicate much, but I could see the hatred in their eyes. I guess they hated me for torturing them. When they arrived at the fourth room, Nolan and Vivian panicked visibly after reading the letter on the table. They called me in a hurry. Nolan opened his mouth and asked, "Valerie, you must be joking, right? We've done what you said. Come out quickly. Are you hiding here?" Nolan threw his phone and started searching the room. He kept shouting, come out, come out." Obviously, Nolan had broken down. It seemed that he really wasn't in his right mind. Vivian tried to take the phone and say something to me, but Nolan suddenly flew into a rage and cursed, "Valerie, you bitch, I'm with Vivian. What man doesn't cheat? Can't you be more magnanimous? You want me to die, you bitch. Don't let me find you." After that, Nolan angrily smashed the phone on the ground. I let him vent his anger on the phone because he had eaten too much and had the strength to do so. Vivian quickly picked up the phone, but it couldn't be turned on. She panicked and kept muttering, "It's over, it's over." I cleared my throat and turned on the voice conversation of the camera. "Nolan, why do you think I would forgive you? I said that only one of you two can live. Choose for yourselves. I'll pick up the one who survives." When they heard the voice coming from the camera, they understood everything and realized that I was serious. Nolan rushed in front of the camera and knelt down, kowtowing as he said, "It was that bitch Vivian who seduced me. I still love you, Valerie, please save me." When Vivian heard Nolan's words, she quietly approached the table where the knife was placed. Only when she held the knife in her hand did she curse, "Valerie, don't listen to his nonsense. It was him who said you were no good and that he was just playing with you. He forced me." "Vivian, stop talking nonsense, Valerie, don't you love me the most? As long as you save me, I'll listen to you from now on." Nolan turned around and saw Vivian holding a knife towards him. He was immediately enraged and pounced on Vivian. "You bitch, you want to kill me?" Vivian waved the knife and shrieked. Nolan couldn't get close to her for a while. Nolan rolled his eyes and shouted, "Vivian, don't fall for his trick. Valerie just wants to see us kill each other. He won't save us. Calm down." Vivian was stunned in place by his shout and looked at Nolan, not knowing what to do. She thought what Nolan said made some sense. At this time, Nolan suddenly approached Vivian and took out a knife from nowhere and stabbed it into Vivian's stomach. Vivian covered her stomach and looked at Nolan in disbelief. But Nolan was like a madman. He pulled out the knife and kept stabbing Vivian while shouting, "Valerie, look, I killed her. Are you satisfied? Are you satisfied? Come and save me. Come quickly, I killed someone for you. I killed someone." He rushed in front of the camera and kowtowed. Blood flowed from his forehead to his face. He looked terrifying, grinning and asking me to save him. I took a deep breath and said, "Okay, come to this place. I'll be waiting for you." I told Nolan the location of the fifth room. The fifth room was actually a warehouse facing the street. Nolan rushed over quickly. As soon as he entered the door, I pressed the horn. Zombies were sensitive to sound. The horn was very loud, and the surrounding zombies gradually surrounded him. Nolan shouted to turn off the horn, but I didn't turn on the sound, so I couldn't hear him no matter how much he shouted. He seemed to realize something and looked terrified, but he didn't know what to do. Through the surveillance outside the warehouse, I saw that a large number of zombies had gathered at the door. I turned off the horn. "Nolan, I wish you and Vivian could be locked together down there forever." After that, I remotely controlled the door of the warehouse to open. The zombies rushed in and overwhelmed Nolan. He shouted that I didn't keep my word, but I could only say that I was sorry and that I didn't eat beef. The zombies quickly ate Nolan up. Listening to his screams, I felt extremely satisfied. "You finally experienced the pain I had in my previous life." I exited the surveillance and let out a long sigh. This matter came to an end with their deaths. 5. When Oscar saw me coming out of the house, he ran to me and didn't ask anything. He just said that he had cooked a table full of delicious food and asked me to come and eat. 2 months passed. During this period, the electricity and water were cut off one after another. When browsing videos, there were zombies everywhere outside. At first, the government delivered supplies every 5 days. Slowly, the frequency of the government supply delivery changed from every 5 days to every 10 days, and now it was every 20 days. There were also some discordant voices on the internet. Many people said that they had been robbed. Some robbers said, "So what if I robbed you? If you have the ability, you can rob too." It seemed that it was chaotic outside. Oscar and I took turns watching the surveillance. I watched during the day, and Oscar watched at night. There were also some scattered zombies at the entrance of the community. We turned on the solar power and connected the well water. However, our phones couldn't receive the situation outside anymore. We took out the vegetable seeds and planted them. We also played games occasionally and lived like this. The change happened in the month of the Spring Festival. An armored vehicle crashed through the gate of the community, and 6 big men got out of the vehicle and started searching the community. Oscar and I weren't panicked at all. Not long ago, we moved all the supplies from Oscar's house here, and we also buried the tunnel on his side. Soon they came in front of my villa. Seeing that it looked like a construction site, they didn't plan to come in, but one of them suggested that they couldn't miss any place. So they walked around the sand and the shielding board and came to my door. Because the sand was too close to the door, they could only stand in a row in front of my door. As soon as they touched my door, they got electrocuted. They were so scared that they quickly came out, and this revealed that there were people in this house. The leader looked at the house with a malicious expression and ordered to remove the shielding board first. After removing it, they started digging the sand with their hands, wooden boards, and other available tools. They dug for a few days. And Oscar and I watched them. We treated it like a drama while eating. Finally, they dug away the sand after 3 days. My electricity was directly connected to the big iron gate, and they couldn't get in no matter what. Sure enough, they were helpless in front of the electrified big iron gate. They wanted to crash into the wall. There were greening trees all around, and the car couldn't drive in. 2 of them went to Oscar's house and went to the 3rd floor to see the situation there. Unfortunately, they couldn't see anything. The anti-peeping film on the windows blocked their view. They didn't try hard to find a way to get in. Instead, they stayed in Oscar's house. They sent someone to my place to take a look every day. They knew that we wouldn't come out, so they didn't waste words with us. This went on for a week. They went out to find supplies during the day and came back to harass us at night. Yesterday, they threw a burning torch into the yard. Fortunately, there was nothing flammable in the yard, and the torch went out after a while. I was really annoyed by their actions. As the saying goes, I'm not afraid of thieves stealing, but I'm afraid of thieves thinking about my things. I couldn't be sure that they wouldn't find a way to get in someday. Oscar and I discussed and decided to drive them away. While they were asleep at night, Oscar and I each operated a drone. One drone was flying with a white flag that said I was willing to let them in, and the other one was hanging with rotten meat and a speaker to attract the zombies. I played music and flew the drone to their window to wake them up. They opened the window and saw me standing on the 3rd floor. They let down their guard, thinking that a girl like me couldn't cause any trouble. I shouted at them, "My solar panels are broken, and I'm almost out of electricity. I can let you in, but please don't hurt me, okay?" Those big men all showed lewd smiles on their faces. "Don't worry. We'll take good care of you." I pretended not to understand their words and thanked them. Then they came to my door and shouted for me to open the door quickly. Oscar was also almost ready. He attracted a large group of zombies to the entrance of the community. I opened the 2 doors and shouted at them, "I'm going to let you in now." After that, I heard their cries, "A zombie horde! It's a zombie horde! Run!" Some of them patted the door and asked me to let them in. Some wanted to run back to Oscar's house, but they found that they couldn't get in. Oscar's house had a remote-controlled door. When we moved things some time ago, we thought it was okay, so we didn't close the door. Instead, these people lived in it. As soon as they came out, Oscar closed the door. The leader saw the drone hanging with rotten meat in the sky and understood that it was my plan. He fought the zombies and called for everyone to get in the car quickly. The weakest one among them was overwhelmed by the zombie horde. The leader gritted his teeth and stepped on the gas, taking the people in the car and leaving. I thought that since they had suffered a great loss, they might come back, so I didn't lead the zombies away. Sometimes I threw them some vegetable leaves, meat, and other things to make them wander around in a certain number. 6 months passed since those big men left. It had been a whole year since the end of the world came. One day, I was harvesting vegetables in the yard when I heard the roar of a helicopter overhead. Oscar was also attracted by the sound and came out. We watched as the helicopter landed, and several soldiers in camouflage uniforms got out and shot dead the nearby zombies. A trace of guilt flashed across Vivian's face, and then she affectionately clung to my arm. The soldiers in camouflage saluted us and said, "Comrades, hello, we are soldiers of the 654th Unit. The country has developed a solution. We have also dealt with most of the zombies. Our base is built nearby. It's very safe here. You can move to the base or stay in your original place. We will do our best to help everyone." Finally, this day had come. We welcomed the soldiers into the house and cooked a meal for them. At first, they kept declining, but they couldn't resist when Oscar and I kept pulling them to stay. After the meal, we also packed a lot of food for the soldiers. We asked for the location of the base. Oscar and I discussed and decided to donate half of our supplies to the base. I agreed. Without the protection of the country, even with these supplies, we couldn't survive for a few years. We went to the base and told the base leader our thoughts. He expressed his gratitude and also gave us a car to make it convenient for us to travel between the base and our home. The leader told us that thanks to someone's anonymous reminder before the end of the world, they were able to control the zombies so quickly. Now bases have been established in many places, and he believed that life before the zombies could be restored soon. We walked around the base. The people who survived all had smiles on their faces and were working hard to contribute to the construction of a new home. Finally, both of us stayed to work at the base. Oscar and I became revolutionary partners who trusted each other the most. Story 2, this is my second rebirth. A week before the zombie outbreak, I had already stockpiled supplies and was comfortably lying at home. However, my college roommate brought people over, stole everything, and even pushed me towards the zombies. On my third rebirth, I had someone to protect me. The boss said to me, "Finally found you, don't die this time." 2 years ago, the year I started college, my parents died in a car accident on the way to bring me to school, leaving me as the sole survivor. Every time I returned to my old home, I was reminded of every little moment I had shared with my parents. Although I couldn't bear to sell the house, I didn't want to go back either, so I used the money left by my parents to buy a small 2-bedroom apartment near the university. After the purchase, I still had some tens of thousands left, although it wasn't much. Combined with the part-time jobs I did from time to time, it was enough to last until graduation. After my second rebirth, I was sitting at home guarding my supplies when, 2 weeks later, I received a call for help from my college roommate Yana. Although I bought a house near the school, I still stayed in the dormitory occasionally. However, since I spent little time there, I barely spoke with the other 2 roommates. The only one I was close to was Yana. I was concerned about whether she had enough food, but she asked me, "Do you have enough food on your side?" Thinking she was concerned about me, but still cautious, I replied that I only had a little left, enough for a few days. I thought she was in the dormitory, but it turned out she was at her boyfriend's house in the same neighborhood during the outbreak. She had visited my home before, so she knew exactly where I lived. After confirming my response, she and her boyfriend kicked down my door, stole all my supplies, grabbed me, and dragged me downstairs. My dog tried to stop them from taking me away but was kicked to death. The noise they made kicking the door had already attracted several zombies waiting at the entrance of the building. Once downstairs, in their rush to escape, they pushed me out, waking up again. I found myself lying in the dormitory bed. I grabbed my phone to check, and sure enough, I had been reborn again. This time I was reborn 2 weeks before the zombie outbreak began. This was my third rebirth. 15 days later, the zombies broke out. Initially, it took less than 2 hours for the zombies to catch and eat me. Then I was reborn 2 hours before the outbreak. With little time and not enough food prepared, I starved to death at home a week later. The second time I was reborn a week earlier, I had enough food prepared, but Yana and her group stole it and pushed me into a crowd of zombies. This rebirth, I was out for revenge, just as I had guessed last time. However long I survived after the outbreak, I would be reborn that far back. Last time I was killed about 2 weeks in, so this time I was reborn 2 weeks before the outbreak. With more time to prepare this time, I needed to take every precaution against zombies and traitors. I got out of bed just as Yana came in from outside. "Huh, Ivy. Why did you come back to sleep in the dorm last night?" I made up an excuse. "I stayed too late at the library last night, so I didn't go home." "How come you're just getting back?" She leaned in mysteriously and whispered proudly, "I stayed at my boyfriend's house last night. He also bought a house in your neighborhood, and it's much bigger than yours." "That's nice. I wish you two all the best. You should know him, the new student council president," she said. "I don't," I replied. Not wanting to continue the small talk, I excused myself, saying I had to leave soon for an errand. It was exam week, and the semester's classes were over. I had finished my last exam a few days ago, so I had ample time to prepare without having to make excuses for taking leave. In my previous lives, I subtly reminded everyone, with the pandemic resurging, it's wise to stock up on food, but that only led to me being targeted early on, so this time, I decided not to warn anyone and to be even more cautious with my stockpiling. I still had 40,000 left from the money my parents left me, and I borrowed another 100,000 from a lending app, which should be enough to get prepared. As I was going downstairs, I noticed a guy under a tree opposite the dormitory building waiting for someone. His eyes were fixed on the entrance of the building, as if afraid to miss the person he was waiting for. As soon as I stepped out of the dorm, he quickly approached me. "No time to explain. My name is Leo, you're Ivy. There are only 14 days until the zombie outbreak. Follow me." "What?" I exclaimed, full of confusion, yet my body instinctively followed him. On the way, I finally understood that Leo was also reborn. Just 2 hours after I died, I was murdered before I was reborn. "What about you?" he asked. He sighed. "I don't know why, but I do know that if you die, we will be trapped in this cycle again. When the zombie outbreak first happened, I vaguely heard a voice saying, "You need to prevent Ivy's death." I thought it was a hallucination and ignored it, but then the voice came again after a while, "Ivy is dead," going back 2 hours before the outbreak. About half an hour later, I really returned to 2 hours prior. I began to suspect that only if you survive, we won't go back to before the outbreak. 2 hours wasn't enough for me to find you, but this time, I didn't hear about your death. A day passed without incident. I was relieved and started to gather supplies. Just when I had managed to survive about a week, I heard that voice again, "Ivy is dead," going back 1 week before the outbreak. This time I knew I had to find you and prevent your death. Even if I couldn't find you, I hoped you could hold on longer to give me more time. From what I observed, the longer you survive, the further back before the outbreak I go. I nodded. "I've noticed that too, but why are you trapped in this cycle with me? Aren't you reborn at the same time as me? Why I am with you is also strange to me. Does the zombie outbreak have something to do with you?" Thinking to myself, could I be the key figure in saving this apocalyptic world? But unlike other protagonists with special powers, why don't I have anything? Before I knew it, I blurted out, "Could you be the special power the system assigned to me?" Leo looked at me as if I were foolish. "Special power or not, if we want to survive, we should start stocking up on supplies now. You still haven't told me how you found me. Let's get ready first. There'll be plenty of time to tell you later. So now we should head to the library." The library. We're 2 people now. Let's list everything we need to buy and divide the tasks accordingly. "Your place has been robbed," he said. "Yes. I ran into some." I felt a bit embarrassed and didn't want to continue. "Don't worry, I'm here this time. It won't happen again. Go back and bring Bun over to my place. I live in the same complex, in the penthouse of Building 36. Building 36, I remembered, was the one with all duplex apartments. The complex has several types of apartments. I live in the ones closest to the entrance, buildings 1 to 20, where all units are small 2-bedroom apartments, with 3 units per floor. Then there are buildings 21 to 30, all of which are 3 bedrooms with 2 units per floor. And then there are the duplexes like Leo's, in buildings 31 to 40, each with its own private elevator. After parting with Leo, I went home. I packed a few clothes, grabbed some of Bun's toys, flea medication, puppy pads, and snacks, put them in a bag, slipped on Bun's leash, and headed out. Walking Bun through the complex, I felt a bit dazed. After my last rebirth, I had been frantically preparing, and now here I was, leisurely walking the dog outside. For some reason, even though it was my first time meeting Leo, I felt incredibly safe with him. I lingered a long time outside Leo's building before going up. Just as I reached the elevator, Leo rushed over, grabbed Bun's leash, and, placing his hand on my shoulder, asked worriedly, "What took you so long, downstairs?" I saw a couple being all lovey-dovey on a bench between 2 buildings, so I stayed back a bit longer. I didn't want them to see me coming up. Leo, smart as he is, guessed, "Was it the people who robbed you?" I didn't answer, but he understood, his expression turning stern. "I've decided we shouldn't split up tomorrow. We'll stick together. It's okay, they don't mean any harm to me yet. It was a spur-of-the-moment thing last time. It's fine to split up, as long as we stock up on supplies in time." No, while stocking up is important, it's not as crucial as staying together. Embarrassed by his somewhat ambiguous statement, I felt a bit shy. I sneaked a peek at Leo, but he seemed unfazed. He led Bun towards the elevator. "Let's head back. Bun is hungry." Bun, a 2-year-old adult golden retriever who still thinks he's a baby, cuddled up to Leo, clamoring to be held. "How come you and Bun are so close? Last time I was at your place." Bun was lying on the floor, his name tag stained with blood. I held him until his last moment. Maybe he remembers me from his rebirth. I felt a pang of regret for not having protected Bun well in the past. Leo seemed to notice what I was thinking. "If you feel bad for him, then take care of yourself. The most important thing for him is having you by his side." I nodded. During the elevator ride, I asked again, "How did you know Bun's name?" Leo sighed. "Were all your skill points used on looks and cuteness when you were born, leaving none for intelligence?" "Me, just look at the dog tag. Any literate person would be able to read that." "Me, Bun, woof." Leo's place is on the top floor, with 1 apartment per floor, so he can also freely use the rooftop. He installed 20 pieces of 1.6 square meter solar panels and even built 2 small water storage tanks on the rooftop, considering the weight capacity, due to the urgency of the project. The construction workers demanded extra payment. Watching Leo agree without batting an eye made me wince a bit. In the afternoon, we ordered 150 barrels of 20L drinking water from 2 different companies and requested delivery. When the delivery guy arrived and saw the amount of water, he was surprised and asked, "Why did you order so much water?" Leo, without a hint of blush, made up a story. "We're doing a group purchase for the building, I'm the organizer." And each household ordered 5 barrels. The delivery guy, eager to help, offered to carry it upstairs. Leo kindly declined, saying, "Just roll it into the elevator, the residents don't like strangers going up, I'll handle the delivery." Thus, Leo managed to have the delivery guy help him roll the water into the elevator, 10 barrels at a time, and then he transported it upstairs himself. After we moved the water barrels from the elevator to his apartment, I nudged him. "Aren't there only 15 floors? How did you end up ordering 150 barrels? Leo chuckled. "Fool, how would anyone know whether there's 1 apartment per floor or 2? Distributing the water evenly among the households would keep it from drawing attention. Aren't you worried about being seen by the neighbors while moving the water?" I asked. Leo grinned proudly. "In this building, aside from us, only the 5th floor has tenants, and they went on a vacation with their kids a few days ago." After installing solar panels and a water storage tank, we urgently set up a complete water purification system and then contacted workers to reinforce the doors and windows. Living on the 15th floor, the top of the building, although it's hard to see inside from below, we took precautions and applied a one-way film on all the windows. Next, we went shopping. We first drove the mini truck Leo rented to the largest supermarket nearby. We ordered 40 bags each of 5 kilograms rice and flour, 40 bags of glutinous rice flour, 40 packets of yeast, and 40 packets each of 1 kilogram red beans, green beans, soybeans, black beans, millet, peanuts, and 40 large barrels of cooking oil, along with 5 boxes each of noodles, pasta, and vermicelli. Leo claimed it was a community group purchase and had the supermarket staff pack and divide everything into 40 boxes to be delivered downstairs, then piled up in the building's hallway. He continued to spin his tale about the group purchase. "Just leave it here, I'll notify them to come down and pick it up," Leo explained. "It's necessary to be cautious, we've bought so much stuff, and it would be troublesome if someone with ill intentions took note, but by presenting it as a group purchase, it seems like each household isn't holding too much." We then went to the largest local farmers market, starting in the dried goods section, where we bought lots of dried tofu skin, seaweed, dried shrimp, dried scallops, dried green beans, dried wood ear mushrooms, dried shiitake mushrooms, and while passing the seasoning shop, we also picked up various seasonings, sauces, and hot pot bases, along with plenty of instant soup packs and pre-cooked meals, choosing those with the longest shelf life. We also bought lots of storable vegetables like potatoes, cabbage, carrots, sweet potatoes, pumpkins, and bean products. We bought some fruits too. But considering that fruits and vegetables can't be stored for long, we mainly stocked up on freeze-dried fruits and vegetables, dehydrated versions, and canned goods. In addition to fruit cans, we loaded up various canned meats, fish, seafood, vegetables, and nuts, as well as several types of pickled vegetables. We didn't buy too many instant noodles, just 2 boxes of each flavor. And we took 5 boxes of each flavor of instant rice and self-heating hot pots at the market. We also visited several shops specializing in Sichuan-style sausages, cured meats, and Jinhua ham, buying lots as these are rare meats that can be stored long-term. If it weren't for the lack of space in the truck, we would have continued our endless shopping spree. Upon returning to the complex as the sky grew dark, Leo was in no rush to unload. "Let's eat first and wait until it's quieter outside before unloading. I can cook, but it's just edible, so usually I pack food from the school cafeteria or order takeout." Surprisingly, the food Leo cooked was delicious. This man looked incredibly cool while cooking. It had been a long time since I had such tasty fennel meat sauce noodles. I shamelessly sat down on the floor, slurping up the noodles directly from the bowl, while Bun looked on enviously, drooling. "Shall we move the stuff after dinner?" I asked. "No rush, we'll move it later in the night. Can you then tell me how you found me? Leo simply slid down from the couch, joining me on the floor, sitting on the carpet beside me. He spoke. I've seen you before, during the military training when you spoke as a representative of the freshmen, so I knew we were from the same school. Every time I reincarnated, I've been searching for you. It was quite a task to locate your dorm. And your roommates gave me your off-campus address. When I finally came to find you, I was still too late. When I arrived, the door to your home was wide open, and the place was a mess. A single slipper lay at the doorway, and Bun was quietly whimpering, bleeding from the mouth, dragging itself to the slipper and resting its head on it. I followed the trail down and saw a group of zombies nearby, feasting on a person. One of his feet was bare, the other had been gnawed down to the bone, and the other slipper was scattered further away. I returned upstairs and held Bun until the end. I just wished I had found you all sooner. As the night deepened, we used a small cart to transport the supplies we had bought during the day, up to our apartment. You're carrying everything yourself. You must be a werewolf, I joked. Leo insisted I not help and just wanted me to hold Bun and keep him company, all the while directing me. Don't just stand there, cheer me on. Over the next few days, we continued to accumulate more items, 20 boxes of military compressed biscuits, various snacks I love, Snickers, chocolate, different types of biscuits, jellies, chips, candies, sunflower seeds, beef jerky, dried pork, boneless chicken feet, sausage, and various nuts and dried fruits. We even made a special trip to the suburbs to buy 20 jars of wild honey. Drinks were essential too. Although we had already purchased a lot of water, we bought plenty of cola, milk, yogurt, milk powder, soy milk powder, chocolate powder, instant coffee, freeze-dried lemon slices, and various kinds of herbal and green tea. Although neither of us smoke or drink, we stocked up on tobacco and alcohol as they are valuable commodities. At the fresh market, we bought 100 pounds of pork, 50 pounds each of lamb and beef, 50 steaks, 50 whole chickens, 50 pounds of chicken legs, 50 pounds of chicken wings, 50 packs of frozen dumplings, and 100 pounds of assorted seafood including fish, shrimp, and crabs, along with 5 boxes of eggs, to ensure I could still enjoy the pleasures of a certain brand of duck products after the apocalypse. Leo also picked out various duck parts like heads, frames, feet, and necks. We also bought lots of semi-prepared foods like buns, steamed bread, and dumplings. Luckily, Leo had just bought 2 large freezers recently, so storing all these items wasn't a problem. I marveled at Leo's 2 freezers, thinking how after experiencing the pandemic lockdown, all I managed to stock up at home were a couple of bags of rice, while the wealthy could afford to stock up with 2 large freezers, considering that the meat would eventually run out. We also bought lots of protein powder as a supplement. Although the internet was gone just over 10 days into the apocalypse, we still prepared 10 power banks, just in case the signal came back one day. We also bought 3 air fryers, because everything is better fried. With natural gas likely gone after the apocalypse, stocking up on gas didn't seem safe, so we purchased 5 induction cookers, 5 electric kettles, 5 rice cookers, 5 microwaves, 3 juicers, and 3 soy milk makers. Given our limited solar power, which had to support the fridges and cooking appliances, there wasn't much electricity left. Plus, the external units of air conditioners were too noisy, so we didn't consider them initially. To cope with the summer heat, we bought 3 fans. We also acquired 10 hand-cranked flashlights, anticipating extreme weather conditions. Further, we purchased 20 blankets, 5 electric blankets, and 5 boxes of heat packs, preparing for cold weather. We each chose clothes suitable for all seasons. Leo's choices were simple: comfortable clothes for staying at home and light, easy-to-move-in clothes in case we needed to go outside, ideally. I'd rather die than go outside. We also stocked up on plenty of consumables like tissues, toiletries, sanitary pads, dishwashing liquid, and laundry detergent. If food is about sustenance, then these items are about maintaining a quality of life. Imagine if even using toilet paper had to be carefully considered, having to tear a napkin in half just to wipe your mouth. Life would be so uncomfortable. Then there's the issue of safety and self-defense. Leo had clearly thought it through more thoroughly than I had. 3 days before the apocalypse, Leo's package arrived, It was a beautiful box containing 2 pairs of high-powered binoculars so we could comfortably sit at home and watch those who wronged us meet their doom. We also managed to buy 10 stun guns, 10 bottles of pepper spray, 2 long knives, and 2 small daggers. When handing over the weapons to me, Leo emphasized repeatedly, "These are for self-defense, but if danger arises, run first, don't try to fight it out." After I acknowledged his instructions, Leo changed his tone to one that was incredibly smug and narcissistic. "But now that I'm by your side, such things are completely unlikely to happen." Medicines were also essential. Following a list Leo had thoughtfully prepared in advance, we bought vitamins, antibiotics, cold medicine, anti-allergics, anti-inflammatory drugs, bandages, alcohol, iodine, mosquito repellent, stomach medicine, ibuprofen, and more. We chose our selections carefully since hospitals would no longer be an option, and even minor illnesses could prove deadly. Some medications had purchase limits, so we visited several different pharmacies, in case we ran out. We also bought many traditional Chinese medicinal herbs, which can last for years if stored properly. We also bought many water purification tablets. Although a water purification system was already installed next to the water tank, it was always good to have a backup. Water is a basic necessity, so we chose the best and most expensive water purification tablets with a shelf life of up to 10 years. After shopping, we took Bun, our pet, to a pet store for a bath and grooming. While there, we also bought lots of dog food, freeze-dried snacks, canned food, deworming medicine, and other pet supplies. Bun was so happy, hopping around non-stop. I later learned that on the day we split up to run errands, Leo went to the digital city and bought 3 computers along with several hard drives filled with terabytes of books, movies, and games. Downloading them would have taken too much time, and time was exactly what we lacked, so buying preloaded hard drives saved a lot of trouble. Leo's house had several rooms converted into greenhouses because his parents loved gardening. They were supposed to visit him from another city and stay for a while, so he had prepared these in advance. When the apocalypse hit, his parents couldn't come. Leo had already instructed his parents and brother to prepare early, and he was confident his brother could take care of them better than he could. The greenhouse turned out to be perfect for us to grow some vegetables. We also applied a one-way viewing film to the greenhouse windows to reduce the sunlight slightly but mainly to ensure our safety and privacy. The shelves and soil were ready. All we needed to do was select the right seeds. We bought various seeds suitable for growing vegetables and fruits like lettuce, cabbage, baby bok choy, green onions, celery, spinach, eggplants, tomatoes, loofahs, cucumbers, radishes, strawberries, and blueberries. Concerned that the seed selection at the local market might not be comprehensive, Leo also ordered many other seeds online, including some medicinal herbs. Even if we didn't use or need them all, they might prove useful for rebuilding civilization after defeating the zombies someday. To enhance our security, we decided to create the illusion that other empty floors in the building were occupied. This way, if anyone came to loot, we would be able to detect them trying to break in from downstairs. We bought some couplets, shoe cabinets, and door decorations to make the entrances on several floors look inhabited. Leo called the property management to ask if there were any apartments for rent, and we ended up renting the 13th floor. We spent half a day buying some second-hand furniture to mess up the interior, creating the appearance that people had lived there and then left. We also bought many locks and numerous tiny 360-degree cameras. We placed a camera on each floor above the 5th, planning to lock all the security passageways from the 5th to the 13th floor and then disable the elevator, making it impossible for outsiders to come up. Even if someone tried to break in, these locks would delay them, and the noise of breaking the locks would alert us. We didn't lock the floors below the 5th because a family lived there, and we couldn't block their escape route. A few days later, that family returned. We had been so busy stocking up that we hadn't had the time to notice whether our neighbors had returned, but they made their presence felt all too well. My snack delivery had arrived and was left downstairs. I immediately went down to pick it up after receiving the delivery call, but by the time I arrived, everything had been dumped on the ground, and the boxes were picked up by the old lady from the 5th floor. When I confronted her, she had her own logic. If this box is left here, that means it's unwanted, and I didn't take your things, so your belongings are still here. I just picked up a box. I haven't even mentioned that you're littering. It's pointless to reason with this old lady." Just as I was about to speak, she clutched her chest, acting as if she would collapse and blame me if I dared to say anything. "The kid on the 5th floor deliberately lights up every button on the elevator every day. Once, he even urinated inside the elevator, causing it to malfunction and trapping him inside for 2 hours. In the end, his parents furiously confronted the elevator repairman, threatening to sue the property management for a faulty elevator. The property management had to agree to a compensation, which finally shut them up. Living alongside such charming neighbors, we have to be extra cautious. We dare not let anyone know we've stockpiled supplies, or even which floor we actually live on, since they returned. We've been taking the elevator to the 13th floor and then walking up. 2 hours before the zombie outbreak, I took out my phone, ready to take care of my former roommate Yana and her new boyfriend Finn, who had wronged me in a past life. We found out from the school forum that Finn had chased a girl for over a year before succeeding, and Yana was just the other woman. Finn's girlfriend Luna is beautiful and fiery, and importantly, her father is the deputy mayor. Which is why Finn went to great lengths to win her over, perhaps because his girlfriend is so dominant. He sought out the gentle and considerate Yana for an affair. After some investigation, it even turned out that the apartment Finn is living in was paid for by his girlfriend, though he claimed to have bought it himself. Pretentiousness invites disaster. I sent Luna a message with a new SIM card, XX Complex. Unit 26, your boyfriend and his mistress are here, come quickly. Then I set up my telescope, ready to watch the drama unfold. Finn's rented apartment was in building 26, and Leo's was in 36, right across from it. The view was excellent, a perfect spot for watching the drama. Luna stormed in wearing high heels and a miniskirt, furiously pulled out her keys, opened the door, and rushed inside. The two, who were sitting on the sofa as if glued together, stood up in panic. Finn looked utterly flustered, and Yana's face was flushed with her hair in disarray. Luna grabbed Yana by the hair, dragged her aside, tore at her a bit, and then slapped the cheating Finn twice, her lips mouthing what seemed to be a few choice swear words. Luna is famously fiery at our school, not just fiery, but also fierce. The cheater's face turned dark, but accustomed to appeasing Luna, he didn't dare retaliate or even get angry, continuously holding Luna's hand and trying to explain. Yana, standing aside, was crying profusely, her face marked with red, her neck scratched, and her hair as wild as a madwoman's. "This telescope is really good quality, I can see everything clearly," I said to Leo, who had just quietly sabotaged the building's elevator, climbed up 15 floors and, out of breath, sat next to me and also took up the telescope. He couldn't resist boasting. "Of course, who do you think chose it? Damaging the elevator too early might bring someone to fix it too late and it might be unsafe due to the zombies, so Leo timed it just right. Sabotaging the elevator just before the outbreak. This building has one elevator per apartment, accessed by card, so just in case, Leo also took all the spare elevator cards from the property management. I wanted to go with him, but he said it would be faster alone, so I had no choice but to sit at home, eating melon seeds and waiting for him. About 15 minutes later, a scream came from downstairs. I quickly turned the telescope in that direction and saw a zombie in gray clothes on the ground at the complex's entrance, fiercely biting the neck of a security guard. The people around didn't realize the severity of the situation, still gathering to watch, some even live streaming with their phones. After a while, the zombie raised its head, the crowd stepped back, but still lingered, unwilling to leave. Suddenly, zombies suddenly erupted, charging into the crowd scattered instantly, with some immediately falling to the ground, bitten. Those who were not bitten shoved and screamed, trampling and injuring more people than the zombies bit. The screams attracted more zombies to the street, and the remaining 2 security guards struggled to close the gate. Due to the recent pandemic lockdown measures, this was the only gate opened for residents, as all other exits had already been sealed with iron plates. The 2 guards fetched the iron plates used previously for sealing buildings, attempting to erect them at the community gate. Before they could properly set it up, a zombie pounced from behind, viciously biting off an ear of one guard. Losing his strength, the other guard could no longer hold the iron plate and ran away. The guard who lost his ear was pressed down by the iron plate and fell to the ground. More zombies were drawn to the scene, and he ended up as their meal. I couldn't bear to watch any longer. Across from me, 3 people were also terrified by the scene below. Luna, who initially wanted to kick out the couple, couldn't bring herself to do it. After all, sending them out now was akin to sending them to their deaths. Moreover, as a single woman against 2, if things really escalated, it was uncertain who would have the upper hand. I opened my phone, and Weibo had crashed. Completely inaccessible, people were discussing in various WeChat groups. And the residential community group was in an uproar. Resident of Building 15, Room 0302 wrote, "What the heck is this? Not those zombies from Resident Evil, right?" The guard who had abandoned his partner and fled alone had reached the deepest part of the committee office, wiped his sweat, and started messaging in the group. "Hello everyone, I am the head of the community security. Please, do not panic. Stay in your homes, and wait for rescue," Resident of Building 34, Room 1501 asked. "We're not going to die, right?" And Resident of Building 1, Room 1103 inquired, "Will there be supplies distributed? When will the government distribute supplies?" Meanwhile, a family in the building below also spoke up. Resident of Building 36, Room 0501 exclaimed, "Wow, this is thrilling, so much fun." Resident of Building 34, Room 1501 responded, "Fun, you call this fun?" Resident of Building 24, Room 0702 criticized, "Do you hear yourself?" Resident of Building 36, Room 0501 later clarified, "Sorry everyone, that was just my son messing with the phone. He's just a kid, please don't hold it against him." At that moment, Luna and Yana were added to the group by Finn. "Luna, don't be scared, everyone, my dad is the deputy mayor. He will definitely send someone to rescue us." Yana also hurried to curry favor with Luna. "Yes, Luna's dad will surely help us. By the way, does anyone have some food to share with us?" In hope of a vague promise. Some actually shared a few bottles of water and some instant noodles with them. The head of security then urged everyone to change their names to their building and apartment numbers to stay within the group, or they would be kicked out. Not wanting to expose myself, I changed mine to my apartment number, Building 9, Room 0705, while Leo changed his to an apartment number below, Building 36, Room 1301. Thanks to the swift action of the 2 guards in closing the community gate. Most zombies were kept outside, so there weren't too many zombies downstairs. Leo and I began planting the seeds we had bought. We found various agricultural books from the data we had downloaded and started planting based on both the books and our life experiences. Leo had much more experience in planting than I did. His mother was a doctor of agronomy, and had often guided him in planting from a young age. We also planted the flower seeds we had bought. I must admit, I've always been a plant killer. I love planting but can hardly keep them alive. However, with Master Lin's guidance this time, there shouldn't be any problems. We also put together several large, heavy shallow trays, covered them with a layer of nutritional soil, and sprinkled densely with grass seeds. Once it grows out, a small indoor lawn can be formed. This is specially prepared for Bun. Although Bun had already learned to defecate at designated places and we had stocked up on plenty of dog pee pads, cat litter, and deodorizers, it's unthinkable for a puppy not to play on the grass since it won't be able to run around outside anymore. Once the grass was firmly established, Bun immediately went on it and rolled around several times. Fortunately, there are no residents living downstairs, and Bun is very obedient, never barking loudly. It was only then that I remembered we had forgotten to soundproof the house, but when I shared my concerns with Leo, he told me that he had already thought of that issue. His grandmother is very sensitive to noise, so they had soundproofed the house during the renovations. Rich people really do think differently. At the start of the apocalypse, we still had internet, water, and electricity, so we could keep up with the news and the latest updates in our chat groups. The pandemic had instilled a habit of stockpiling in most people, except for young folks like Yana Finn who usually only ate takeout. They were stuck in school during the pandemic, where meals were provided daily, so they never experienced a shortage of supplies. Moreover, even if they had ingredients, they wouldn't know how to cook. Yana kept tagging the security team leader in the group chat daily. "When are you distributing food? Shouldn't you be arranging supplies for everyone?" But no one paid any attention to her. the dynamics among the trio across the street also gradually shifted. Initially, Luna, who comes from an official's family, was the most influential, but a few days into the apocalypse, it shifted to the two girls revolving around Finn. Since Finn was the strongest among them, their food supplies were dwindling, to the point where even a packet of instant noodles had to be split into 3 portions. In contrast, I was lying on the sofa, comfortably eating the fried fries Leo made, leisurely observing the opposite building and the street below with binoculars. Bun, that traitor, was completely seduced by Leo, lying in Leo's arms eating a no-salt, no-oil pet sausage. Suddenly, 2 heads peeked out from Building 25, and then a young man and woman stealthily stepped out, just like in the past life. As food supplies decreased, people started going out to find resources, and this couple was among the first to try. They were fully clothed to cover themselves, revealing only their eyes. The woman held a pot lid and a baseball bat, while the man wielded a watermelon knife and a nunchaku, back to back. They cautiously surveyed their surroundings while moving outward, recognizing the nunchaku and baseball bat. I realized this was the young couple, the wife a fitness coach from whom I had bought classes, and the husband who taught children martial arts using nunchakus at his small studio. Both had decent self-defense skills. No wonder they dared to venture out first. They must have observed for a long time to seize this opportunity, as most of the zombies in the neighborhood had moved to another area, leaving only a few scattered near their building to the neighborhood gate. Carefully, they reached the gate and gently moved the steel plate leaning against it. The security guard turned zombie charged at them, and the couple coordinated well. The wife used the pot lid to attract the zombie's attention while the husband stabbed the zombie in the head with his knife. Just like in the movies, a zombie's weakness is its brain. Once disabled, the zombie fell to the ground. Then, the couple opened the gate and drove out to look for food. Although I already knew from my previous rebirth that they would return safely, I was still nervous. Not until they quietly returned at 3 in the afternoon, unloading boxes of food supplies from the car, did I finally relax. Gradually, others also began to venture out in search of food, but not everyone returned. Some even led more zombies back. Initially, everyone would conscientiously close the community gate after entering or leaving, but a few days ago, a car sped back to the community, crashing into other vehicles at the gate. The shrill noise attracted dozens of zombies that surrounded the area, trapped. The people in the car couldn't get out to open the gate of the residential complex. In desperation, they rammed through the main gate. Zombies poured into the complex, following the car as if they were dumplings being dropped into boiling water. Ultimately, those in the car never managed to get out safely. The community chat was filled with curses. The outside was already unsafe, and now it had become even more dangerous. However, all of this had nothing to do with me. I was comfortably enjoying a fruit salad and a Leo brand mango lemongrass lemon tea, watching the American show, The Walking Dead, and learning some theoretical tips on dealing with zombies. Bun clung to Leo, waiting for him to feed it an apple. Ever since Leo, unable to bear the pleading gaze, gave it a small taste one day, Bun had been guarding the box where the apples were kept, refusing to budge until it got one each day. Leo was happy to indulge it, pampering the dog and justifying it by saying, "We have so many fruits, we can't finish them all by ourselves. It's better not to waste. It would be a hassle to deal with spoiled fruits." I countered, "It's fine, didn't we install a garbage disposal? Waste is shameful." It seemed like Bun understood and grumbled softly, then continued to stare eagerly at the apple and the slowly lengthening peel in Leo's hand, almost drooling. Such a fuss over an apple, even peeling it for the dog. After peeling, Leo also removed the core, and Bun lay on Leo's lap, each paw pressing down on half of the apple, nibbling away until the half was quickly gone. Bun now spent more time with him than with me, and I almost forgot this was once a timid and shy dog. Suddenly, I felt a twinge of jealousy. I walked over and pulled Bun away. "Move over. Why stick around him all day?" Bun hummed and moved away, and I sat down next to Leo. Suddenly, I realized something was off. Whose jealousy was I feeling? I should be competing for Bun's attention. I quickly dragged Bun back, who had already walked a few steps away with the remaining half of the apple, and hugged it tightly. Struggle, that was futile. I just wanted to hold it. A pet owner's love is just that heavy. During such times, Leo always watched us play with a smile. Honestly, Ever since Leo came, Bun and my life had changed significantly. Before, Bun never entered the kitchen. After all, I was too lazy to cook, and for us, the kitchen was just for show. It didn't even know what a kitchen was used for. Now, the kitchen was finally serving its purpose. Bun realized it was the best, most fragrant, and most interesting room in the house. Every day, while Leo was busy cooking, two eager little eyes would watch him from behind. I would help with sorting and chopping vegetables, and even Bun would help, carrying eggshells to the trash can. Watching dish after dish freshly prepared with our help was just fantastic. To include Bun, the little hero, in our meals, Leo often cooked without salt and seasonings first, setting aside a portion for Bun before seasoning the rest. As we lived our leisurely, comfortable life day by day, things were getting harder for the trio across the street. At first, Finn still went out to find food, but as more people went out, and less food was available, he gradually stopped going. Luna and Yana still didn't see eye to eye. But since they still hoped for Luna's dad's last-minute rescue, Finn continued to take Luna's side, occasionally joining her in physically attacking Yana. One day, after enduring a few slaps, Yana lay on the ground begging them. While I was guessing what they were saying, I saw Yana pull out her phone. Ding! I received a message. Ivy, are you home? Do you still live in XX Garden? Is there enough food at your house? I'm really worried about you. The last time I was reborn, I took it upon myself to care about Yana and started a conversation with her, which eventually led to inviting trouble into my home. This time, however, it was Yana who actively sought me out. It seems that Luna's impact was quite significant. Yana couldn't take it anymore and wanted to improve her situation by taking advantage of my food supply. I replied with a smirk, I'm at home. The zombies are truly terrifying. But fortunately, I've stockpiled some food, allowing me to stay safely at home. Shortly after sending this message, joyful expressions appeared on the faces of the three people on the other side. As expected, they soon made preparations and headed straight for my house. Having gathered some experience dealing with zombies over the past few days, they coordinated well. Although they mainly focused on evasion, they could easily handle a few unavoidable zombies. Seeing their actions, Leo became thoughtful and then assigned me a task. We've been staying at home with plenty of food and no need to venture out, which will inevitably lead to our lack of combat experience. If one day we have no choice but to go out, we'll stand no chance against zombies or other people. You make a lot of sense, so starting tomorrow, we need to exercise. I'll come up with a plan tomorrow. I nodded, staring blankly at him. He looked really handsome as he seriously planned things out. His hand gently rested on the top of my head. Turning my face towards the window downstairs, look there, they're about to go in. Indeed, the three of them had arrived at the entrance of the building where I used to live. They looked a bit disheveled but seemed uninjured. I could feel their excitement about getting food soon. Even from this distance through the telescope, I couldn't see them in the hallway, but from our vantage point, using the telescope through the balcony, I could clearly see the entrance to my apartment. After a while, the door was kicked open. Several zombies downstairs were attracted by the noise and began gathering at the building entrance. They entered the house but didn't find me or any food. I even guessed that a thin layer of dust had accumulated on the floor since I had not returned home after taking Bun away. Finn turned his back to me, so I couldn't see his expression. But I could imagine how dark his face must have been. Luna slapped Yana across the face, and Yana, covering her face with her hand, looked around the empty room in disbelief. Finn snatched Yana's phone and messaged me in her tone, Ivy, you're not at home, are you? Where are you? Despite already knowing what had happened to me before, seeing the knives and ropes they brought, and their kicking down the door, Leo couldn't help but grit his teeth and curse. Bastards, he took my phone. His slender fingers beginning to type, he started chatting with Finn, who was pretending to be Yana. I'm at home. I went back to my hometown after the exams. What? Why didn't you say you weren't there? We looked at each other and smiled silently. Leo continued to type, luring them into a trap we had already set up. I kind of regret coming back. I didn't stock up on any snacks at home, and I'm so craving them. I've got a lot of snacks stocked up at my place near school. Snacks? Where? Of course, in the bedroom. You know I get hungry at night. The three rushed into my bedroom and indeed found a box under the bed containing some cookies and beef jerky. although it wasn't as much as they expected. They were quite satisfied. As they walked out excitedly, they found a few zombies scattered in front of the building. They carefully made their way outside. They wanted to both avoid and deal with the zombies as they did when they first arrived. At that moment, Leo remotely turned on the Bluetooth speaker hidden under the snack box and started blaring harsh music. The nearby zombies, attracted by the noise, rushed over, and even those farther away began to converge, quickly threatening to surround the three of them. The box contained food, which would be a pity to lose, but it was packed with items, making it hard to quickly locate the source of the noise. Frustrated, Finn clenched his teeth. The two girls were terrified, clinging desperately to Finn. What seemed slow was actually the work of no more than 10 seconds. Finn finally managed to grab the speaker and throw it to the side. However, the zombies, already drawn by the scent of humans, continued to close in on the trio. Standing in a triangle with Finn at the front, Yana and Luna huddled behind him, almost blending into his shadow as the zombies encircled them. Most of the zombies pressed in from the front, with only a few on the sides. But it only took a moment to completely surround them. Yana, showing her true colors amidst her feigned frailty and fear, pushed Luna forward into the path of the zombies. This repositioned them, placing Luna closest to the zombies, facing the largest number. The frontmost zombies even began to grab at her clothes. She screamed loudly, her face smeared with tears and snot, a far cry from her usual composure. Finn, not seeing Yana's maneuver but realizing Luna was about to be taken, tried to pull her back. However, he quickly noticed that Luna's screams had drawn the attention of the zombies surrounding him, providing a slim hope for escape. Seizing the moment, he too pushed Luna, his strength sending her directly into the midst of the zombies. The zombies paused to attack Luna, taking advantage of the chaos. Finn and Yana escaped through a weaker part of the encirclement and made it back to their building, not forgetting to take the snack box with them. Watching through binoculars, I saw the zombies devouring Luna and forgot to put them down. I felt no pity. Although Luna had never harmed me in past lives, her participation in today's raid on my home with Finn meant her fate was not entirely undeserved. I was just fortunate not to be home, or it would have been me instead. Leo turned off the Bluetooth speaker and gently placed his hand on my shoulder, reassuring me. "Don't worry, I'm here." Now, both electricity and water were cut off. Fortunately, we had already installed solar panels and filled our water reservoir in advance. We could also collect rainwater, so our lives were not much affected. The number of people in our complex was dwindling. The day before the power went out, the man from the 5th floor, knowing we were above, had threatened us through a group chat added by Leo. 13th floor. "I know you have food, send us some, or we'll tell everyone in the complex. Can you stop them all?" We were infuriated. Recalling that the internet would soon be cut off, we delayed responding until it went down, no longer fearing his threats to the group. They had tried to come up to us, but without the elevator and with the stairs locked, they couldn't succeed. They tried breaking the lock several times unsuccessfully. The sound of their attempts echoed far, but they dared not try again. The couple sometimes went out together for supplies. Once, the wife returned alone, covered in blood, her husband not with her. We breathed a sigh of relief. Before the internet went down, I saw his mother asking in the group chat about snacks several times. Of course, nobody responded to them. The unsatisfied and petulant child was not happy and made a fuss every day. Moreover, after the loss of his father, their food supply became even scarcer. The child, usually spoiled and accommodated in every way, couldn't handle this hardship. One day, he decided to run away from home and ventured outside the residential area. His mother and grandmother hurriedly went out to search for him, already exhausted both physically and emotionally. The child's mother was pushed and blamed incessantly by the grandmother, perhaps feeling utterly disillusioned. When the zombies attacked the grandmother, she did not help, and she didn't resist when they turned on her. Finn and Yana managed to make it back home safely that day, feeling manipulated and furious. They furiously vented on their phones, but I don't know exactly what they said as all that appeared were red exclamation marks. With some food at hand and no Luna to interfere, the two of them started getting intimate again, completely forgetting their previous conflicts. They were shamelessly forgetful. I couldn't bear to watch their actions every day. After all, snacks are just snacks, and soon they ran out. So they started looking for other solutions. In the residential area, There was a security captain who had abandoned his team to escape, last name Lu. After the apocalypse began, everyone in the group respectfully called him Captain Rob. There was no special reason other than that he had taken over the local convenience store. He used food to win over a few strong men. And they took turns guarding the convenience store with weapons, while also sending people out daily to loot and find supplies. Finn and Yana planned to seek refuge with Captain Rob. Together, they were quite cunning. Yana thought Finn intended to earnestly help search for supplies to secure food for both of them. Finn, of course, planned to trade Yana for food. When Captain Rob saw Yana, his eyes lit up. He was not very old, having started working as a security guard in his 30s or 40s. Thus skipping many years of hardship. Due to his appearance and personality issues, Captain Rob did not have a wife. Yana, delicate and beautiful, was a woman he wouldn't have dared dream of before the apocalypse. Finn and a few other men held Yana down and forcefully brought her to the employee rest area behind the convenience store, which now served as Captain Rob's private room. After Captain Rob entered, other men lined up waiting their turn. Sharing food and women was one of Captain Rob's management strategies, but Yana was truly resilient. Betrayed by her boyfriend and violated by a man in his 40s, she continued to smile and even began to please every man in the small group with her body, but I noticed her gaze growing colder. She gained the men's trust by maneuvering among them daily, initially under constant watch, later allowed to move around freely, then to cook for them, and eventually to accompany them on supply runs. I thought Yana might seize the opportunity to escape during one of these outings, but she didn't. Malnourished in this apocalypse, she was slender and now even thinner, yet her belly began to show a slight bulge. Sometimes I saw the men jokingly touch her belly, sometimes I saw her hitting her stomach when alone, yet smiling forcefully in front of others. The days did not remain uneventful. One day, after they had eaten, everyone fell asleep, though they sometimes took naps at noon. It was always with someone on duty, but this time everyone was asleep. A first. This was no coincidence. Yana had secretly brought back drugs on an outing and seized the opportunity to mix them into the food today. Yana took out a knife, a favorite of the boss Lu, and stabbed those men. As for Finn and boss Lu, their fate was not so simple. In ancient China, there was a form of execution called ling chi. Yana first severed their tendons in their limbs to prevent them from resisting after they woke up. Then, she methodically began slicing off their flesh, piece by piece. Amidst excruciating pain, the two woke up, initially cursing vehemently, and later, pleading for mercy. However, Yana remained unmoved. The zombies, proving to be Yana's best assist, hurried over attracted by the smell of blood and feasted. One person, not having had much to eat, woke from the severe pain and watched in shock at the blood-soaked scene and the zombies devouring voraciously. Despite being stabbed several times, he still tried to stop Yana. A man, unable to match a woman's strength, managed to wrestle the knife from Yana's grasp and stabbed her fiercely in the stomach. Yana struggled to crawl away, leaving a long trail of blood behind her, made it to a car, and started it. The car moved erratically before crashing into a wall and then remained still. Yana never emerged again. The small group that had formed around the convenience store transformed back into zombies, continuing to roam near the store. We continued living a simple life of eating, sleeping, exercising, and spending time with the dog. Leo's cooking was incredibly delicious. I devoured 2 large bowls of rice at every meal. He even DIY'd a menu, neatly written alongside light-colored pen illustrations, and I just had to tick off whatever dishes I wanted each day. Every ingredient reached its full potential in his hands, creating many unexpected and delightful combinations. The dishes included tomato coconut beef penne, curry milk roasted pumpkin, preserved mustard pork belly, tom yum fried prawns, spare ribs stewed with beans, black pepper prawns, our own garden vegetable cakes, almond tofu, ginger chicken stir fry, cheese pork chop rice, fish flavored eggplant, exploding egg bun, roasted pork belly, bamboo fungus stuffed meat, sesame beef with wide noodles, salt and pepper ribs, teriyaki stuffed mushrooms, chicken vermicelli, bacon-wrapped asparagus, spicy boneless chicken feet, mixed seafood, and shredded potato. I must stop, or I'll start drooling. There's a saying, win a woman's stomach, and you win her heart. Well, Leo certainly had me wrapped around his finger. After that day, He set me a daily exercise goal of at least an hour. While he did too, he was like a gym trainer, but with him, there were no excuses for slacking off. Months later, my physical fitness had indeed improved significantly. Alongside our exercises, we maintained the daily habit of using binoculars to observe the area below. This habit enabled us to be the first to receive rescue when, 2 years after the apocalypse, a human military team arrived in our neighborhood. They cleared all the zombies and deployed drones to broadcast a rescue message, inviting survivors to a human base. Initially, we were wary and hesitant to trust them. However, after observing them for a long time, we saw them rescue an elderly couple who had survived by farming and rearing chickens on their rooftop and even carried the grandmother down themselves. They prioritized giving their limited food supplies to a fit couple's young children. Their genuine care and concern for survivors seemed sincere, and they had no reason to fake it. After much consideration and discussion with Leo, we decided to join them and took our belongings to the base. The atmosphere at the base was positive, and everyone had a role to play. With Leo's culinary skills, he naturally joined the cooking team, and I continued to be his best assistant. As the base developed further, scientists from various places gathered, and equipment was brought in. Although life was already blissful, people still hoped for a day without zombies and the fear of being bitten. Scientists began developing a vaccine against the virus. Everyone's blood was collected to check for antibodies. To everyone's surprise, I turned out to be the chosen one. The day we found out, I proudly told Leo, "See, I told you I was the key person to save the world. Yes, yes, and I'm your golden touch. Extra, my name is Leo. This is the 10th year of the apocalypse. 10 years ago, I found a dog, dirty and collarless, with a silly face. I took it to live in the human established base. We've been living here for several years. I've given it many names, but it didn't like any of them, except for Bun. It reacts a bit when called Bun, but sometimes it acts as if it didn't hear at all. Perhaps its previous name was Bun, or maybe Rice. Bun is quite old now. Bun loves me and feels at peace only when I'm around, but sometimes, even with me beside it, it can't help but whimper while lying down. I know it misses its former owner. The scientists at the base have been tirelessly researching a vaccine against zombies, but to no avail. They even developed a time machine. However, despite sending several groups back to the past, the zombie outbreak still couldn't be prevented. Moreover, the time machine has a bug. Once you travel back, you forget everything about the present and only remember the main mission of going back. One day, there was finally progress. They captured a special zombie. I grabbed my phone to check, and sure enough, I was reborn. This time, I was reborn 2 weeks before the zombie outbreak. She wasn't aware, and she had no desire to eat people. Apart from the wound, she looked no different from an ordinary person, and she didn't need to eat. Out of curiosity, I went to the lab with Bun on the day she was captured to see what was happening. I realized I recognized her. Although I didn't know her name, I remembered seeing her at university, back then. She was so youthful, so beautiful. That sweet smile has always remained in my heart. I thought it was quite a coincidence to see the girl I had secretly admired, but to my surprise, Bun was even more excited. Its aged tail was wagging as if about to take off. It whimpered hoarsely, and it even tried to break through the glass to reach her. The scientists at the base said that this girl had some antibodies in her body and she was key to the zombie vaccine research. Although the antibodies didn't stop her from becoming a zombie or losing human consciousness, they did stop her further zombification, allowing her to maintain a human-like appearance. But she had been a zombie for too long, and such antibodies made the vaccine derived from them not very useful. At best, it could make people become like her, the scientists said. If only she hadn't been bitten, then the antibodies would have been effective. Yes, if only she hadn't been bitten. After watching for a long time, I wanted to take Bun home, but it refused to leave, continuously licking the glass blocking it from the girl. I couldn't stand watching this dog-like behavior anymore and just carried it away. Bun wouldn't eat or drink even when we got home. I sighed and told it, "You eat your food, and I'll go help your owner." Bark. The scientist stood in front of the time machine, making the final adjustments to the device. "Are you ready?" "Ready. Send me back to the past. This time, I'll protect her."